In the heart of Shanghai, a city glowing with light and energy, a young mother cradled her newborn son named Lin Zichen. She smiled with weary eyes as she nursed him, whispering that his only duty was to eat and sleep while she carried the burden of toil and sacrifice. She said that no matter how hard life was, her happiness would come from watching her little boy grow strong and healthy. Yet hidden behind the tiny body of this infant was the soul of a man who had been given another chance at life, for he had been reincarnated into this fragile form. And to his astonishment, each time he was fed, the mysterious system within him rewarded him with energy points. Then, before his newborn eyes, a glowing blue screen appeared, filling him with joy and wonder, for he had not only been reborn, but also blessed with a cheat ability. At that very moment, he overheard his parents speaking with pride, imagining their son's future and saying that perhaps one day he would stand tall as either a mighty Genefuser or a powerful cyborg. These words echoed in his mind, though he had no true idea what such titles meant. And in his innocence, he pictured heroes clad in armor or warriors born from science and genes. At just 3 months old, Lin Zichen completed his very first task, his tiny legs having kicked 10,000 times, earning him his first true reward from the system. The boy's spirit surged with confidence. Yet curiosity still stirred within him as he tried to imagine the road ahead. Time moved quickly, and when he reached 4 months, he practiced secretly in the shadows of night, for he feared that revealing his gifts too early would alarm his parents. By this time, he had already learned to crawl, and every silent movement granted him further points from the unseen system. By 5 months of age, he had mastered walking upright, astonishing progress for a child so young. And the rewards from the system rained upon him without end. At 6 months, Lin Zichen decided to finally act like a normal child before his family, crawling and sitting in the daylight while hiding his true potential. That evening, while watching television with his parents, he discovered a shocking truth. This Earth was not the same as the one from his past life. Here, the world had suffered mutations and terrible aberrant beasts roamed freely, a threat to all mankind. Humanity, in turn, had taken 2 paths to survive, one through the power of technology and the other through the science of gene modification. With his cheat system, Lin Zichen knew he must rise and survive in this perilous world. Just then, a knock sounded at the family door, and a kind woman named Xu Meng entered bearing gifts. At her side stood her husband Shen Jianye and their little daughter Shen Qinghan, who would soon become Lin Zichen's first companion in this new life. As the families greeted each other, Lin Zichen thought silently that this girl might be someone whose fate would intertwine with his own. At 7 months, his progress exploded. He could run as fast as his little legs would carry him, leap high into the air, and even speak in clear words. The system showered him with rewards for every feat. By 8 months old, his body was already capable of sit-ups and push-ups within his crib. But though he trained in secret one night, his mother walked in and caught him in the act. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she saw her infant working out like a soldier. She thought her exhaustion was making her hallucinate. Lin Zichen quickly played innocent until her doubts faded away. Yet not long after, she cried out again in shock, having discovered her baby's tiny torso had developed a 6-pack. His father listened carefully to her panic, then thought back to the boy's enormous appetite. And after pondering, he declared perhaps their son was no ordinary child but a prodigy with a bright future ahead. Hearing this, Lin Zichen felt relief that his secret remained safe. One day, as the family watched the news, they saw a report about a young genius capable of lifting 20 kilograms at just 2 years old. Lin Zichen's mother puffed up with pride and declared that her son would never lose to children of elite families. Her faith stirred his heart, yet also made him wonder if he could truly match such feats. When he reached 2 years, the answer became clear, for he casually lifted a 20-kilogram box with one hand, though in his mother's call to come play with his neighbor friend, he nearly dropped it on himself. Dragging his tired body, he walked to the door and found little Shen Qinghan waiting there with a pie in hand. She still spoke like a baby, unlike him, and while their minds felt far apart, he found a use for her during training, often strapping her to his back as a weight vest. Though there was one small problem. For sometimes she could not control herself and would wet his back. Much to his dismay, years slipped by and his strength soared. At 3, he could raise 40 kilograms as if it were nothing. And by the age of 4, he surpassed the prodigies he saw on television. Yet even with his overwhelming power, the system reminded him that his biological level remained at rank 1, sparking his curiosity about the greater heights that lay beyond. Not long after, he stepped outside with his mother, Xu Meng, and Shen Qinghan for the first time, truly seeing the city that stretched before him. While others wandered, he ran eagerly toward the library. Since his parents forbade electronics, there he lost himself among shelves of books, his friend calling out for him to wait, his mother questioning why her child chose the most difficult volumes. But Lin Zichen ignored them and devoured the knowledge within the pages. He discovered that the human race was divided into 6 great biological levels, from common to mythical, each separated into 9 distinct ranks. The vastness of the world and the dangers within pressed down upon him, making him feel small, yet the system stirred, rewarding him with a new ability after he had read 100 million characters. With new missions ahead, he dedicated himself to endless training and study. Finally, at age 4, he set foot in kindergarten alongside Shen Tinghan. By then, his power had already reached biological level 2, his arms capable of raising 80 kilograms, his legs carrying him faster than the eye could follow. Yet even in the innocence of childhood, conflict arose, for bullies tormented his friend. Enraged, Lin Zixian leapt into action, moving faster than the children could react. He released a wave of energy that pressed down upon the room, leaving the others frozen in fear, and with a voice both playful and threatening, he warned them that if anyone dared harm his friend again, he would pee in their beds. The sheer terror of his words broke the bullies into tears, while Shen Tinghan gazed at him with wide-eyed admiration. In that moment, the system chimed again, declaring that Lin Zixian had become the kindergarten king. Unlock another mission. He realized with awe that he could now complete several missions at once. Half a year passed in quiet diligence, and during that time, Lin Zixian poured his efforts into reading, until at last the system announced the completion of his mission, and his comprehension and learning ability soared to the very limits of what a human mind could reach. The days continued to flow like a river, and before long he was 7 years old, standing proudly with his classmates as they graduated from kindergarten. While other children enjoyed carefree play, he kept pushing himself further, and during that short break before the start of elementary school, his training bore fruit as he reached the astounding level of being able to lift 200 kilograms with ease. His legs grew powerful as well, and he astonished himself by clearing a jump of more than 2 meters in height. His speed also became something legendary for his age, as he sprinted the 100 meters in less than 8 seconds. And with the brilliance of his intelligence sharpened by the system, he had already absorbed the entire curriculum of elementary school long before stepping into the classroom, quietly waiting for the next title the system would grant him. Once his official schooling began, he approached every challenge with the confidence of someone who already knew the outcome, and as expected, each competition, academic or otherwise, was a simple matter for him to conquer. At the National Academic Tournament, his overwhelming abilities secured him first place, and his family celebrated with pride glowing in their eyes. Outside of his own achievements, he never forgot about his neighbor and companion Shen Qingyan, who struggled at her lessons. He patiently tutored her in their free hours, and though she lacked natural talent, she steadily rose under his guidance, until she stood as the second brightest student in the class, always just behind him. The system whispered new tasks, and so he threw himself into sports as well, breaking records one after another until his name was known throughout the school. He began to think that perhaps these years would be nothing but calm victories. Yet fate rarely allows peace for long. One morning, their teacher introduced a new transfer student, a girl with snow-white hair whose name was Bai Shui. The moment she entered the classroom, Lin Zixian sensed something faint and unsettling in the air around her. An aura did not seem wholly human. As she walked gracefully down the aisle, the eyes of every student followed her. But he ignored their chatter and fixed his thoughts on the strange pressure emanating from her, wondering silently if she was perhaps a rare geniffuser. She took her seat quietly and spoke to no one. The days that followed revealed her to be a girl who isolated herself, sleeping at her desk and showing no interest in class. Curiosity about her soon faded among the children, and they treated her like empty space. But 1 month later, that silence shattered when her body began to sweat with a strange substance that carried a pungent smell. The classroom filled with complaints, and soon cruel whispers turned into actions. One boy approached with a sneer and doused her desk with water, mocking that he was only trying to help her clean. Her small hands trembled on the soaked desk, her fists clenched tight with shame and fury. She tried to endure, but her tears betrayed her. As humiliation crushed her spirit before the eyes of indifferent classmates, Shen Qingyan tugged at Lin Zixian's sleeve, pleading softly that they should help the poor girl who was being bullied. He agreed at once, for in her aura he now saw not danger but simply loneliness and suffering. In a heartbeat, he was at the bully's side, his hand gripping the boy's collar, lifting him effortlessly and freezing the room in silence. A terrifying smile curved his lips as he ordered the boy to wipe the desk clean immediately. The bully quaked in fear of Lin Zixian's fearsome reputation and obeyed without resistance. Then, with a cold gaze, he turned to the rest of the children who had mocked her, commanding them to line up and apologize. None dared resist, and one after another they bowed their heads to Bai Xie, promising to never trouble her again. Shaken but grateful, the white-haired girl whispered her thanks to Lin Zixian and Shen Qingyan. Shen Qingyan waved it away with kindness, and insisted that from that day forward she would be Bai Xue's friend. She began to share her snacks each day, always bringing Lin Zixian along. At first, Bai Xue hesitated, staring at the food with conflicted eyes and asking softly if they truly were not disgusted by her smell. She confessed that she had always been rejected by others, and having companions now felt like a dream she feared would vanish. Shen Tingyan clasped her hand and said that this was not a dream, and that she would never be disgusted by her, declaring with a radiant smile that they would remain friends forever. Tears welled in Bai Shue's eyes as she hugged Shen Tingyan tightly, sobbing with happiness and whispering her gratitude. When she finally calmed, she remembered something precious and told them that since they had shared so much with her, she wanted to offer a gift in return. From a small pouch, she drew out a pair of beast fangs strung as a necklace, a birthday present she had once received, and now she gave it to them as a symbol of their bond. The three of them celebrated the new friendship with laughter and promises that they would never be apart. Yet destiny can be cruel, and soon unexpected news darkened their hearts. Lin Zikin discovered Bai Xue in the principal's office, speaking with a stern cyborg man while filling out transfer papers. In that instant, his suspicions hardened that her background was far more complex than she had revealed, soon after she was gone from their lives. And for Lin Zikin, she became a bittersweet childhood memory. But life pressed on, and the system continued to shape his path. At home, he practiced new skills and even learned to soothe his mother's exhaustion with a massage skill that made her smile with relief. One evening, the television blazed with headlines about a Kyoto prodigy, a 10-year-old who had undergone gene fusion and lifted a boulder with a single hand. His father muttered complaints that this boy was constantly on the screen, while his mother explained that the prodigy's family possessed advanced martial heritage and cutting-edge technology. Lin Zishin listened quietly, then clenched his fists, thinking to himself that at only 8 years old, he could already raise 300 kilograms without any fusion at all. The realization filled him with burning confidence that his future potential was even greater than he had imagined. However, that confidence was shattered in an instant when a breaking news report flashed across the television screen. The anchor spoke in urgent tones as horrifying footage filled the broadcast. A neighboring nation had been struck by an overwhelming swarm of aberrant beasts, specifically monstrous rats larger than cars, their grotesque bodies swarming through the city streets as they tore apart buildings and vehicles alike. The screen showed chaos, people screaming, smoke rising, and amidst the carnage, a woman was caught by one of the massive creatures. Its jagged teeth glistened as its jaws snapped shut in an instant, the woman's life ending before she even had a chance to cry out. Lin Zishin's stomach twisted with unease as the camera cut away to a politician demanding aid from other nations, while blaming a radical cult for orchestrating the beast outbreak. Seeing that scene made him silently thank that he was born in a powerful country with strong defenses, thinking that perhaps he could grow safely without facing such horrors. But his relief did not last long. As the very air outside his window rumbled with an ominous sound, a deafening boom tore through the sky, making the building tremble. His eyes widened in shock as his instincts screamed at him to move. Sprinting across the room, he pulled back the curtain with trembling hands and peered into the night sky. What he saw stunned him. Several armored cyborgs flew across the city skyline, their energy thrusters leaving streaks of light in the sky, moving with urgency as though hunting something. The sight left him unsettled and restless. He wondered why so many were dispatched, and if their city too was in danger. The following morning, the streets were calm, people acting as though nothing unusual had happened. Yet in his chest, the unease still lingered. At school, his childhood friend was already waiting, pouting about his lateness. But just as he was about to laugh it off, something caught his eye. Her necklace, the beast fang that Bai Shu had given them months ago, was glowing faintly with a strange light. His heart skipped a beat as he realized the mysterious aura that had once puzzled him came not from the girl herself, but from that very fang. Though the glow faded as quickly as it appeared, the question burned in his mind. What was the true origin of that monster tooth? His thoughts were interrupted when a tall, red-haired woman appeared before them on the street, her beauty striking yet unsettling. With a playful smile, she called them cute children and teased them, asking whether they were siblings or perhaps boyfriend and girlfriend. His friend shyly laughed and explained they were only childhood companions. The woman's smile twisted into something darker as she said she envied the bond. Asking where their parents were, the question carried a hidden edge, and Zikin's instincts flared. Quickly grabbing his friend's hand, he pulled her away under the excuse of being late for class, warning her afterward not to trust strangers. The day passed uneventfully until the walk home. The path was eerily quiet as they cut through an alley marked for demolition. His friend whispered about how creepy the silence felt, and before he could answer, the familiar, sultry voice of the red-haired woman echoed. She had followed them, her smile now sharp and predatory. With her appeared a massive, muscular man who blocked the exit. The woman invited them to come with her for food, but the man's impatience betrayed their true intent. He lunged forward, muttering about selling them quickly. Zikin's heart pounded, but fear never overtook him. Channeling his strength, he struck with precision, his fist slamming mercilessly into the brute's most vulnerable spot. The man's scream cut through the air as his body lifted off the ground from the force. Crashing to the pavement, the woman's eyes widened in disbelief. Unable to accept that a mere child had floored her partner in a single strike, Zikin wasted no time and followed up with a brutal punch to her face, knocking her down, grabbing a brick. His mind coldly calculated that there were no cameras nearby. This was his chance to eliminate threats without consequence. But before he could act, the ground rumbled violently, cracks splitting the wall beside them as a monstrous claw tore through the rubble, dust exploding outward as a gargantuan rat emerged, its horrific body blotting out the alley's light. The beast let out an ear-splitting roar, and in one gruesome snap of its jaws ended the woman's life, blood spraying as her body was devoured. His friend screamed in terror, clutching his arm as he pulled her close. He shouted that it was a mutated giant rat, an apex aberrant beast, and they had no chance but to run. But before they could take 2 steps, the sky split open again, this time descending not enemies, but a savior. A blonde cyborg clad in crimson armor descended with blazing thrusters, her figure radiant as she interposed herself between the children and the beast. Her hand crackled with energy as she began charging a devastating attack. Zikin's eyes widened in awe at the power radiating from her, yet his system reminded him to observe carefully. The heroine unleashed a barrage of glowing projectiles that slammed into the beast, the explosions shaking the alley. The rat screeched but did not fall, its many eyes blazing with hatred as it lunged. She spun in midair, unleashing another devastating volley. The monster reeled but still fought on. The battle stretched for long minutes until at last her relentless strikes broke the creature's resistance, leaving it collapsed and smoldering in the rubble. Days later, Zikin sat in front of the television watching the official report. Instead of feeling inspired, he frowned, realizing that even this powerful cyborg struggled to subdue one giant rat. The creatures were far more dangerous than he had thought. And though he was relieved he and his friend survived, his heart burned with urgency. He needed to become stronger. Stronger than cyborgs, stronger than gene fusers, strong enough to face monsters like that alone. His training redoubled, squats, push-ups, system missions, all intensified as he pushed his body past every limit. Life continued on, and soon came the joyous occasion of his childhood friend's 9th birthday. In the glow of candles and laughter, she made her wish and smiled brightly as he handed her the small gift he had made with his own hands. A delicate hair clip crafted with care. She accepted it with gratitude and joy, her radiant smile warming his heart. As time moved forward, Lin Zishen and his childhood friend Shen Qinghan completed their middle school days together, and the boy was brimming with excitement for the next stage of life. His obsession with strength never faded, and he pushed himself harder than ever before. He strapped a massive boulder to his back and forced his body through endless push-ups, sweat pouring from him, yet his determination unbroken. Through this relentless training, he finally advanced to the 3rd level of his mysterious system. His muscles toughened and his stamina sharpened. One evening, as he rested and turned on the television, his eyes landed on a news segment about the prodigy of Kyoto, a 14-year-old youth already famous across the continent for lifting 2,000 kilograms with ease. Lin Zishen compared himself silently and realized that, even without a gene fusion, he had already surpassed that so-called genius. The thought ignited a fire inside him as he imagined the heights he could reach once he received a gene fusion in the future. Soon after, on a warm and beautiful morning, high school life began. Invitations had arrived from many prestigious academies, since he was recognized as the best student of his year. Yet the principal and teachers who greeted him on registration day discovered that the boy cared little for honors or reputation. What he valued most was the simple joy of playing with Shen Qinghan. She bounced with excitement and challenged him to the game they had planned. With a graceful swing, she served the birdie using her self-made technique she proudly called the fairy curveball. But before the game could continue, a shadow cut across the court as an upperclassman snatched the birdie in midair. He smirked and announced that the court belonged to senior students. His gang of followers circled around Shen Qinghan and offered so-called private lessons. The girl turned them down immediately. Without hesitation, the sight of their arrogance set Lin Zishen's blood boiling. He stepped forward and demanded that they leave his friend alone at once. The upperclassman only sneered and claimed that being first on the court meant nothing and that he would take it by force. Lin Zishen calmly retrieved the birdie and declared that he would show them the rule of the court. Tossing it high, he leapt upward, his body coiled with power. In the air, he unleashed all his strength and smashed the birdie with devastating force. The strike produced a sound like thunder, and the projectile rocketed forward like a bullet, piercing straight through the racket of the bully. Terror spread across their faces as they realized the boy before them was no ordinary human. Trembling, they bowed, apologized, and scattered away from the court without daring to look back. From that day onward, no one in the school ever dared to provoke him again, since he had already mastered every subject taught in class. He often ignored the lessons and instead read books that piqued his curiosity. During his free time at home, he explored various skills using his computer, competing in every tournament and excelling in every challenge he could. He gathered trophies and admiration. Yet still, the elusive title he sought was not unlocked. Female classmates swarmed him with affection, but he brushed them aside, focusing only on Shen Qinghan. The school festival arrived, and he decided to enter 3 events. The shot put, where he casually hurled the iron ball a shocking 201 meters, the long jump, and the sprint, where his strength, speed, and agility left every other competitor in the dust. Though he restrained himself to avoid suspicion, he still dominated with effortless grace. In the midst of victory, he felt an unusual current of energy flowing through his body. The system interface appeared, rewarding him for his overwhelming dominance and bestowing upon him the long-awaited high school top dog title. Later, as he passed through the school gates, he pondered deeply about the essence of life and how creatures might evolve by fusing with such essence. A sudden thought made him pause, and he quickly approached Shen Qinghan. Politely, he asked her to lend him the beast tooth pendant she always wore. Trusting him completely, she handed it over. The moment his fingers touched the tooth, his system reacted. Glowing symbols filled his vision, and it declared that he had absorbed the essence of an abyssal giant butterfly. Astonishment left him speechless, for this was no ordinary discovery. That night, in his room, he searched tirelessly online, yet found nothing. No records, no stories, not even a single mention of such a creature. Frustrated but determined, he resolved to study it on his own. Then he remembered that Bai Shui had once given them not 1, but 2 beast teeth. Retrieving them, he held one tightly, and a purple aura enveloped his body. The system updated, showing his progress had risen to 2%. Although encouraged, he frowned at how slow the advancement was and realized he would need far more essence to unlock the mysterious creature guide. The next morning, Lin Ziqin offered to pet Shen Qinghan on his bicycle, as both a daily habit and a form of training in case one day they had to flee from mutant beasts. As they cruised along, a voice suddenly called out his name. Stopping the bike, he turned to see a stern-looking man. The stranger introduced himself as the coach of the martial arts team and praised Lin Ziqin for his jaw-dropping performance during the recent sports events. Insisting that his athletic talent was extraordinary, the coach practically begged him to join the team. Before Lin Ziqin could even decline, the man hurried off, leaving the boy to sigh helplessly that he never even had a chance to say no. As the sun dipped low, painting the skyline of the city in shades of orange and gold, Lin Ziqin leaned lazily against the railing of his room, absent-mindedly crushing a small insect between his hands. And as he looked down at the remains, he furrowed his brows, because something bothered him deeply. The predator skill that had been so consistent with beasts and essence had not activated with such a simple bug, and that left him with more questions than answers. Deciding he needed to test this properly, he grabbed his old cycle, jumped on it, and pedaled furiously through the streets, thinking of where he could safely confirm his theory. Soon they stood in front of the massive glowing sign of the supermarket, pushing through the doors into a brightly lit interior where shelves were stacked with all sorts of neatly wrapped beast meat. However, his excitement quickly dimmed when he realized everything was sealed and processed. There was no way to test his theory on these packages until a loud voice rang through the air announcing fresh cuts of beast meat. And instantly, his eyes lit up as he spotted a burly butcher slicing huge slabs of meat, with blood dripping fresh from the carcass, telling Shen Qinghan to wait a moment. He rushed over with an urgency she could not understand. Ignoring her puzzled expression, he extended his hand, hesitated for a brief second, and then touched the meat directly. The instant his skin brushed the flesh, a ripple of purple energy coursed through him. His heart raced and he nearly shouted with excitement, because this confirmed it. Beast meat in its raw form held essence and it could be absorbed. His system interface flickered, showing confirmation, and he grinned like a madman. Unable to hold back his joy, Shen Qinghan tilted her head, asking why in the world he looked so happy from touching meat. And when she asked what it felt like, he laughed nervously, saying it just felt fresher, and tried to coax her into touching it herself. But she declined quickly. Embarrassed, he shrugged it off and declared that since they were here anyway, they might as well buy some and try it at home. Her eyes went wide at the thought, pointing out the cost. But he brushed her off, patting her head lightly, assuring her it was fine, and even lying that his mother had asked him to pick some up anyway. In truth, he reasoned that eating it directly might destroy its value, so better to buy, cook, and share it, and maybe absorb essence later. He picked the cheapest option available, the phantom squid, yet even that was absurdly expensive, nearly 1,000 for a small cut. The cashier rang it up with a polite smile, thanking him. But as he walked out of the store, his thoughts churned with guilt over the high cost. Still clutching the bag, he decided it was worth it. Night had already fallen, the streets growing quiet and tense, as danger often lingered after dark, and he decided to pedal fast to take Shen Qinghan home. On the way, he thought about the test he had done earlier. After tasting a small piece of the squid, he had only managed to unlock 0.1% of its essence illustration, which was a terrible ratio considering the price. To make matters worse, this meant if he wanted progress, he would need much more meat, far more than he could ever ask from his parents. So he would need his own money. Sighing, he glanced into the basket where the squid meat sat, but then he froze because it was glowing faintly. He pulled the bike to a slower pace, staring at it, and realized the longer the meat stayed, the stronger its essence became. The system now showed 3% progress. He nearly cheered, but his thoughts were cut short by Shen Qinghan's panicked shout, warning him of something ahead. Startled, he slammed on the brakes, barely avoiding colliding with a couple walking across the road. Stumbling to a halt, he quickly apologized, though inside he cursed himself for being too distracted by the glowing meat. But before he could even breathe, Shen Qinghan pointed again. This time further down the road, where a commotion was unfolding. A heavily built man was holding a trembling woman with a knife pressed against her throat. The flashing lights of police cars filled the street, officers already in position with weapons drawn. One officer whispered that the criminal was clearly experienced, and that even a stray bullet could kill the hostage. Another suggested using sleep gas, but the captain immediately dismissed it, fearing it would only provoke the man into slitting her throat. Lin Zichen's mind sharpened. He glanced at the ground, his hand closing around a small pebble, and without hesitation, he flicked it with frightening precision and speed. The stone cut through the air, striking the man's hand dead on. The knife clattered to the pavement. The hostage screamed, but stumbled free, and instantly the captain bellowed for his team to move in. Officers rushed forward, tackling the criminal and pinning him to the ground. Chaos shifted to relief. Lin Zichen exhaled and prepared to quietly slip away, but Shen Qinghan's wide eyes turned to him. She asked softly if he had been the one to throw that pebble. His face stiffened, and he denied it, forcing an awkward grin as they started to walk away. But the police captain had sharp eyes. He called out for them to stop, demanding to know if the boy had done it. Lin Zichen's chest tightened. He laughed nervously, shaking his head, but the captain muttered something about how strange it was that someone would not take credit for a heroic act. He even announced that there was a monetary reward for the person responsible. The word reward hit Lin Zichen's ears like thunder, and his eyes gleamed with dollar signs. Before Shen Qinghan could even react, he screeched to a halt, turned the bike around, and sped straight back toward the captain, blurting out that it had indeed been him, and that the money was really important to him right now. The captain smirked, clearly amused by the sudden confession, and escorted them to the station to collect his first ever earned cash. Yet fate had another twist waiting. As they arrived, the criminal who had been subdued suddenly began convulsing, his body contorting horribly, fur sprouting from his skin, bones cracking, his form twisting until he was no longer a man but a giant rat. The police shouted in shock, one officer screaming that he was a heretic undergoing mutation. Before anyone could react, the beast roared and lashed out, its claws sending a female officer crashing violently into a wall. The police captain urgently calls into his radio, commanding all units to open fire but to keep the civilians safe. Yet even as volleys of gunfire echo through the streets, the bullets bounce harmlessly from the beast's hide. And the situation only worsens when a frantic report comes in, confirming that the heretic has fused with the dreaded Rat King genes, and backup is desperately requested. Understanding how perilous this is, Lim Zichen quickly apologizes, then grabs Shen Qinghan and the young lady, pulling them to run with him. His heart racing in relief as he notices the creature is not pursuing them, but he knows they must escape quickly before something changes. And as they hurry away, the sky suddenly splits with a streak of violet energy as a new figure descends from above. She is a female cyborg clad in sleek futuristic armor, her short hair tinted a dark shade of purple, glowing faintly under the aura that surrounds her. With blinding speed, she smashes into the giant rat with a single crushing strike, knocking the monstrous creature backward. And without hesitation, she hovers in the air as her chest plate opens, revealing a powerful energy core, light gathering into an immense cannon. She commands fire and unleashes a devastating torrent of purple energy that engulfs the mutant rat in its entirety. The beast shrieks in agony as its massive frame is annihilated, until nothing remains but a mound of charred flesh. The shock leaves Lim Zichen frozen in place, overwhelmed by the raw, destructive force he has just witnessed, while Shen Qinghan and the lady exhale long breaths of relief, thankful the nightmare is over. Yet Lim Zichen's thoughts wander not to the battle, but to his beloved bicycle, and when he notices it untouched and safe, he sighs in deep relief, thinking how terrible it would have been to lose such an expensive possession just when peace begins to settle. A foul stench interrupts the moment, He peers into the basket of his bicycle and sees the prized ghost shadow squid meat completely spoiled, its tentacles limp and reeking of decay. A revelation dawns on him. His earlier theory is correct. Absorbing life essence causes the meat to rot. But with a short delay, realizing this, he knows he cannot let anyone suspect the truth, so he hastily invents an excuse, holding up the ruined squid tentacle dramatically and blaming the heretic and the cyborg's fierce attack for roasting it beyond repair. The lady gently reassures him that the most important thing is everyone survived safely, though disappointed by the loss of the costly delicacy. However, before they can leave, the police captain requests their cooperation, and they are escorted by security to the station, piled into a van, where to their surprise they find themselves riding alongside the remains of the fallen heretic. The stench is suffocating, as a blackened heap of flesh lies strapped to a gurney, filling the space with the acrid odor of burnt meat. And as Lim Zixin sits enduring the nauseating ride, another idea strikes him with sudden force. He recalls the beast fangs of Bai Shui, which still held traces of life essence even long after death, and a daring possibility takes root. Could these scorched remains of the Rat King host still hold a fragment of essence? And more importantly, could he draw upon it for himself? His mind races with the temptation of absorbing such power, and without drawing attention, slowly extends his hand toward the burned corpse. The moment his fingers brush the remains, a surge of crimson energy rushes into him. The system within his body confirms what he dared hope for. He has successfully devoured a trace of the Rat King's essence. And astonishingly, this alone grants him an immediate 5% progress in unlocking its genetic guidebook. He nearly gasps at the magnitude, realizing the freshness of the source is critical to how much can be harvested. It is far more than he anticipated. Later at the police station, the captain sat across from him, eyes narrowed with suspicion, asking how a mere student had managed to strike a thug's hand with such impossible precision and force from that distance. Lin Ziken scratched his head and claimed awkwardly that he had simply been training his right arm a lot. But the sharp-eyed officer was unconvinced, silently noting that the boy's explanation was nonsense. Before the interrogation could go further, the heavy doors of the station burst open and his mother stormed in with Shen Qinghan's family close behind, her face lined with fear as she screamed his name. Running to him in a panic, she threw her arms around him, sobbing and demanding to know if he was hurt. He gently patted her back and reassured her that he was perfectly fine, even boasting playfully that he had earned a reward this time. His mother, however, did not smile. Instead, she held his shoulders tightly and made him promise that if danger ever appeared again, he would hide and protect himself first. That all she wished for was her son's safety and happiness, and never to see a single wound on him. He nodded reluctantly, agreeing as they prepared to leave, while the captain stood silently watching the tender scene unfolding. Nearby, two female officers spoke in hushed tones about the growing audacity of the Rat God cult, saying the group was infiltrating schools and universities and plotting to support a so-called Rat King, who dreamed of ascending to a higher life form. Lin Zixin's ears perked up as he listened carefully, filing away every word in his mind. Later inside the family car, curiosity got the better of him, and he searched online for information about the cult. He discovered page after page of records about their presence, their strange rituals, and their obsession with evolution through mutation. The more he read, the more disturbed he became, until his eyes landed on a chilling detail. The Rat King not only sought evolution, but forced his followers to gather materials for him in bizarre experiments. He frowned deeply, wondering if such intelligence and planning could really come from a beast. Peering out the window, his gaze fell on a large rat scurrying along a nearby gutter, and for a moment he wondered if it was connected, but quickly dismissed it as common in this region. Turning to Shen Qinghan, he noticed her silence and looked down, realizing her legs were wet. His suspicions confirmed that once again her fear had caused an accident, just as it had when they were children. But deep in his heart, he always believed these episodes hinted at some hidden potential waiting to awaken. Arriving home, his mother opened the bag of groceries only to find the meat missing. Shocked, she questioned him, but he quickly fabricated a story, saying an emergency had caused him to drop the food and it was ruined. She sighed with relief that he was safe, insisting the loss of meat was nothing compared to his safety. His father suggested going out to look for the meat, but Lin Ziken stopped him, claiming it had already spoiled, leaving his father scratching his head in confusion. Meanwhile, back at the station, the captain sat alone replaying the boy's actions in his mind. Nothing added up. The throw, the calmness, the denial, it all gnawed at him. His frown deepened as he stared at the case files stacked on his desk. Suddenly, a scratching noise broke the silence. He turned slowly to see a grotesque giant rat perched atop a cabinet, glaring down at him with bloodlust. Before he could react, the creature lunged, claws extended with terrifying speed. Instinct kicked in, and Captain drew his pistol, firing a hail of bullets at point-blank range. Yet even as the shots rang out, the monster did not falter. The next morning at school, Lin Zixin sat at his desk with a heavy sigh, his mind still replaying the fierce battles of the previous night. And no matter how he looked at it, the truth gnawed at him. He was far too weak, pitifully so compared to that monstrous heretic and the terrifyingly efficient female cyborg. If he wanted to stand a chance in this world, he needed strength. And strength meant resources. And resources meant money. A lot of money. Enough to buy rare beast meat like the ghost shadow squid so his guidebook's progress bar would move forward. He rubbed his temples in frustration, turning over possibilities in his mind. Maybe becoming an influencer, maybe selling study materials. But no, those paths were far too flashy, far too obvious, and he needed to remain hidden in plain sight until suddenly, as if lightning struck his brain, an idea burst forth. This was a world where martial arts and gene fusion mattered far more than academics, wasn't it? Then why was he wasting time? It was time to act. Later that day, he strode toward the gymnasium in Building C, where the martial arts team trained, the muffled sounds of fists hitting sandbags echoing through the corridor, and inside he found Coach Guo sipping tea from a battered thermos. "Coach," Lin Zixin greeted politely, and the older man blinked in surprise, asking if he was here to join or merely to observe. But instead of answering directly, Lin Zixin leaned in, his voice low, asking the question that truly mattered. Did joining the team mean a chance to compete in city tournaments? And more importantly, was the prize money worthwhile? Coach Guo chuckled knowingly, his eyes twinkling, and confirmed that not only would he have the opportunity, but the rewards for winning were in the tens of thousands. That was all Lin Zixin needed. He extended his hand without hesitation, declaring with unwavering resolve that he would join the martial arts team starting today. Delighted, Coach Guo shook his hand firmly and then called the team together, announcing their newest member, reminding everyone of Lin Zixin's reputation as the sports meet champion. And one by one, the team members came forward to introduce themselves, before Lin Zixin gave his own simple introduction. Since he lacked formal training, Coach Guo personally demonstrated the basics. Straight punches, sweeping kicks, movements that looked deceptively simple but were notoriously difficult to perfect. And he explained with pride that even the fastest learner on the team had required an entire week to grasp the fundamentals. Encouraging Lin Zixin to try, the coach stepped back, but the boy's eyes sharpened as he assumed a ready stance. And thanks to his celestial root of wisdom, that heaven-bestowed gift of insight, he had already memorized and internalized every nuance of the demonstration after a single viewing. He struck out with his fists, movement sharp and flawless, and immediately the system chimed in his mind, rewarding him with boosts to vitality, strength, dexterity, and proficiency. His punches were fluid, his form immaculate, his execution so precise it was as though he had trained for years. Without pause, he transitioned to the leg techniques, his kicks slicing through the air with both speed and power, his body moving as though guided by the gods. And again, the system rewarded him with increases in leg muscle strength, dexterity, and proficiency. Silence fell over the gym. The team stared in disbelief, jaws slack, and Coach Guo's hand trembled so badly he nearly dropped his thermos. How was this possible? How could a boy who had never trained reproduce such intricate forms so perfectly after only one glance? His heart pounded as one conclusion crystallized in his mind. This was no ordinary student. This was a once-in-a-million martial arts prodigy standing before him. That evening in Shanghai, Lin Zixin's mother called him cheerfully for dinner, and he dashed out eagerly, spoon in hand, asking what delicacy she had prepared. And with a proud smile, she revealed a large steaming platter of ghost shadow squid, the very one he had craved. The intoxicating aroma filled the room, and he exclaimed in delight at how wonderful it smelled. She urged him to eat quickly while it was hot, and as he took his first bite, he couldn't help but praise her as the best cook in the world, which made her beam as she told him to eat to his heart's content. For she bought 3 whole gins just for him. As he devoured the tender flesh, the system flashed once more. By consuming the meat, he had absorbed a trace of the squid's life essence, raising his guidebook progress to 3.01%. His chopsticks froze as realization struck. If eating it worked, then he had completely wasted the first batch by simply touching it. Frustration gnawed at him, but he kept eating, when suddenly the television caught both of their attention. A news report revealed a 14-year-old girl, hailed as the youngest cyborg in history, who, after fusing with an energy core, now possessed overwhelming power, lifting a 5,000-kilogram SUV with a single hand, sprinting 100 meters in just 3 seconds, leaping vertically 8 meters into the air. Astonishing feats that shook the entire nation. Lin Zixin watched in silence, pondering the endless debate. Which was stronger, the Kyoto genius with his gene fusion, or this mechanical marvel with her cybernetics? Yet his thoughts were abruptly cut short by breaking news. A report that chilled his very blood. The security police captain he had met only recently was dead, killed in his own office. the footage showing the horrifying scene as a giant mutant rat burst in and devoured him alive, leaving his mangled body to be carried out by medics. Lin Zichen's heart clenched, and an image of the massive rat he had glimpsed the night before surfaced in his mind. Was it the same creature? Could it be roaming the city even now? The thought of a monster like that running wild filled him with dread, but also hardened his resolve. The world was spiraling into chaos, and only power could protect him and his family. From that moment, he threw himself into relentless training day after day, sweat pouring as he pushed his body to its absolute limits, and the results were nothing short of astonishing. He could now sprint 100 meters in a blistering 4.61 seconds, leap 5.3 meters straight into the air, and lift a jaw-dropping 1,200 kilograms with a single hand. Alongside this physical evolution, he continued honing his martial arts under Coach Guo's team. He had to grow stronger, faster, and sharper than ever before, and the upcoming tournament was only the beginning. Months slipped by in a blur, and on a bright morning, Lin Zichen made his way toward the school gymnasium for practice, his expression calm, while beside him Shen Qinghan trotted along, curiosity gleaming in her eyes as she insisted on tagging along to see what he had been working so hard on. Just before they reached the entrance, a girl with soft pink hair appeared before him, her smile radiant as she held out a chilled bottle of fresh milk with both hands, warmly offering it to him as if it were a precious treasure. Lin Zichen paused, his gaze gentle but firm, and with polite gratitude he declined, thanking her sincerely before walking on with Shen Qinghan, leaving the girl's smile faltering into disappointment. Watching this from afar was Zhang Kai, one of his martial arts teammates, and the sight made his blood boil. His fists tightened until his knuckles cracked, because not only had Lin Zichen humiliated him at the sports meet, but now he was coldly rejecting the kindness of the very girl Zhang Kai had secretly admired for so long. His jealousy burned like fire, and before he could stop himself, he stormed forward, stepping directly into their path. His face twisted with frustration as he snapped at Lin Zichen, accusing him of arrogance, of hurting the girl's feelings, of having no manners at all. Lin Zichen met his fury with calm composure, explaining evenly that he hadn't meant any harm, only that he was allergic to milk. But Zhang Kai sneered, shaking his head, refusing to believe him, spitting the words liar like venom. His chest heaved with rage as he pointed straight at Lin Zichen, issuing a challenge right then and there, a sparring match, with conditions attached. If he lost, he would never trouble Lin Zichen again. But if Lin Zichen lost, he would have to drink every last drop of that bottle of milk. The moment the challenge left his lips, a crisp notification rang in Lin Zichen's mind. The system had triggered a new achievement mission: defeat 1,000 unique opponents in formal duels to awaken the biological trait of survival of the fittest. His lips curved into a sly grin, his heart quickening with excitement. For this was exactly the kind of opportunity he had been waiting for. A faint purple aura flared to life around him, his eyes flashing with anticipation, and he accepted the challenge without hesitation. Word of the impending fight spread like wildfire through the halls, students whispering and rushing toward the gym, eager to witness the clash between the popular rising junior, Lin Zichen, and the more experienced senior, Zhang Kai. By the time the duel began, the gymnasium was overflowing with spectators, a thick circle surrounding the sparring area, voices buzzing with expectation. The atmosphere tilted heavily in Lin Zichen's favor. Girls shouted his name with gleeful encouragement, urging him to put his opponent in his place, among them the very pink-haired girl who had offered the milk earlier, her phone already in hand to record every second. Zhang Kai's jaw tightened as he heard the cheers for his rival. His pride stung, but inwardly he admitted Lin Zichen's progress over the past month had been terrifying, far beyond what he had imagined. This duel, he resolved, would be his last chance to reclaim dignity and show everyone his true strength. Yet while Zhang Kai's aura crackled with intensity, Lin Zichen seemed almost bored, his tone casual as he remarked that he wanted the fight over quickly, since he had to get home for dinner. To Zhang Kai, those words were nothing but a cutting insult. He smirked darkly, promising to grant that wish in his own way. Coach Guo stepped forward then, acting as referee, lifting his hand to remind them of the rules and signal to start. But before he could finish, Zhang Kai suddenly raised his voice, stopping everything with a smug grin. He announced he would be generous, pointing out the vast gap in their training. Nearly 2 years for himself against only a month for Lin Zichen. And so, to make things fair, he declared he would allow his opponent 3 free moves at the start. Lin Zichen simply nodded once, as if it hardly mattered. The moment the agreement was made, he moved like a bolt of lightning, the distance between them vanishing in an instant. Zhang Kai's eyes widened, his body too slow to react, and before he could even lift his guard, Lin Zichen's fist shot forward with devastating force, smashing into his face with bone-cracking impact. Blood sprayed from Zhang Kai's nose as his body crumpled to the ground, completely unconscious before he even knew what happened. The gym fell into a stunned silence so heavy it was suffocating. Coach Guo nearly dropped his thermos, his jaw hanging open as he stammered that it was over, that the fight had ended in a single punch. Students gaped in disbelief, some crying out that it was impossible, that such an outcome was ridiculous, that no one could end a duel so quickly. The silence cracked like glass as the crowd erupted, Shen Qinghan leaping into the air with joy, shouting in triumph at Lin Zixin's victory, while the girls cheered even louder, their voices echoing, the pink-haired girl clapping with flushed cheeks as her camera recorded everything. Standing over his fallen rival, Lin Zixin felt another system notification pulse in his mind. By defeating his opponent and winning the admiration of the opposite sex, he had gained priority mating rights, and more importantly, his new mission progress now displayed as 1 out of 1,000. He exhaled slowly, realizing just how long the road ahead would be if he wished to unlock the full power of natural selection. His eyes shifted to the remaining members of the martial arts team, who stood frozen in terror. With a smile that was warm yet strangely unnerving, he suggested that perhaps they should spar as well to help him progress faster. Horror swept across their faces. One stammered about cram school, another mumbled that his mother was waiting for him at home. Others clutched their stomachs pretending sudden illness, all desperate to escape. Before they could scatter, Zhang Kai stirred on the floor, bloodied but conscious enough to roar his defiance, accusing Lin Zixin of using a sneak attack, swearing that next time he would crush him utterly. Coach Guo stepped in sharply, telling Zhang Kai to stop embarrassing himself and accept defeat like a man, though deep down even he wondered if that punch had truly been skill or simply a stroke of freakish luck. To test the matter, he called forward another member, a spiky-haired boy who froze at the mention of his name, terror flashing in his eyes. Forced into a stance, he trembled, begging Lin Zixin not to hit his face, his voice cracking with fear. 10 minutes later, the results were undeniable. The gym floor was littered with unconscious bodies. Groaning martial arts team members sprawled in defeat, while Lin Zixin stood tall above them, arms folded, noting to himself that he had been careful not to unleash his full strength, only exchanging a few light blows to avoid doing permanent damage. Yet when he glanced at the shimmering system panel in his mind, his satisfaction soured into disappointment. Aside from his first victory, none of the other skirmishes counted. The rival tallies stubbornly remained at 1 out of 1,000. Realization struck him cold. Casual sparring meant nothing. If he wanted progress, he would have to crush his enemies in official battles, matches recognized as true competition. As he contemplated this revelation, a heavy hand clapped his shoulder. He turned to find Coach Guo grinning ear to ear, his expression bordering on manic glee as he declared that Lin Zixin was no ordinary student, but a once-in-a-generation prodigy, shouting that in just over a month he had already become the team's ace. Brimming with newfound confidence, the coach raved that with Lin Zixin at the forefront, Shanghai High would annihilate the competition at the upcoming regional martial arts tournament and seize first place for sure. Hearing those words, Lin Zixin felt a spark ignite within him. A moment of clarity. The coach was right. The tournament was his perfect stage. With dozens of official duels ahead, he would be able to rapidly amass victories, steadily climbing toward the awakening of his natural selection trait. His thoughts were cut short when a groggy voice called his name. Zhang Kai, bloodied but conscious, staggered to his feet, glaring fiercely. Instead of raging, however, he raised his hand and, shockingly, announced that he accepted his defeat. But his bizarre declaration was laced with over-the-top imagery, graphic vows of submission that made the entire gym fall into horrified silence. Shen Qinghan, Coach Guo, even Lin Zixin himself stood frozen, all equally disturbed by his grotesque words. Before he could finish his theatrical speech, the coach and the spectators hastily scattered, muttering excuses as they fled, leaving Zhang Kai standing alone in the gym, grumbling that no one had even let him finish his dramatic monologue. From that day forward, with the divide between academics and martial training looming large, Shen Qinghan made her decision. In this dangerous world where strength often mattered more than grades, she refused to fall behind. Determined, she joined the martial arts class, throwing herself into training side by side with Lin Zixin. Their daily routine was grueling, beginning with a 3,000-meter run to test their endurance. Then an hour of relentless hand-to-hand combat drills, followed by endless repetitions of push-ups and sit-ups to forge iron-hard bodies. Each evening ended with Lin Zixin giving Shen Qinghan careful massages to ease the soreness in her muscles, ensuring she could withstand the next day's punishment. Of course, he didn't neglect himself. He trained harder than anyone, every drop of sweat shed in pursuit of his goal, victory at the tournament and unlocking the dormant power of natural selection as quickly as possible. A month of this unyielding regimen flew by, and at last, the long-awaited day arrived. The regional martial arts tournament. The venue was colossal, a city gymnasium overflowing with spectators, their cheers echoing around the central fighting ring like thunder. In the waiting hall, the atmosphere was suffocating with tension. Coach Guo clutched the roster nervously, muttering complaints about their terrible draw. Their very first match was against none other than Shanghai Nanhua, widely regarded as the strongest team in the city. Another teammate added fuel to the anxiety, whispering that their opponents had a fighter so fast he could sprint 100 meters in under 9 seconds, leaving Shanghai's members pale and doubtful of their chances. Sensing the unease spreading like poison through the team, Lin Zixin calmly raised his hand and volunteered to fight first. Coach Guo hesitated, worry flashing across his face, but in the end he nodded, trusting in his ace. As Lin Zixin stepped into the blazing lights of the arena, the crowd erupted, Shen Qinghan shouting herself hoarse from the sidelines, and Coach Guo's voice booming encouragement through a megaphone. From the opposite side, his opponent emerged, a towering, broad-shouldered student from Shanghai Nanhua, muscles bulging as he flexed. He gave Lin Zixin a begrudging nod, acknowledging that making it to the tournament as a first year was impressive. But his respect quickly melted into mockery. With a sneer, he taunted that the stage was no place for a shorty barely scraping 1.7 meters, promising to crush him and show the difference between real size and borrowed talent. The referee raised his hand and signaled for the match to begin. The larger boy exploded forward, swinging a massive punch meant to end things in one blow. But to his shock, Lin Zixin didn't flinch or retreat. With calm precision, he slipped aside, the fist brushing past him harmlessly, and in the same breath countered with a clean, devastating punch to his opponent's chest. The impact cracked like thunder. The giant staggered back, lifted off his feet, and crashed across the arena floor, unmoving. Silence fell for a heartbeat before the announcer, stammering in disbelief, declared Lin Zixin the victor. The gym erupted in chaos. Shen Qinghan leapt up, fists pumping, screaming that her Zhao Chen was incredible. On the other side, Shanghai Nanhwa's coach was red with fury, berating his fallen student for charging in brainlessly without footwork or strategy. Meanwhile, Lin Zixin received the familiar system chime. Another rival officially defeated. His counter now 2 out of 1,000. Clenching his fist with satisfaction, he felt the fire in his chest burn brighter. This tournament was the battlefield he needed. The opposing coach, desperate to salvage his team's reputation, barked out the name of his next fighter, Chen Feng, and ordered him to crush the upstart first year without mercy. Chen Feng gave a curt nod, calm and collected, then strode into the ring with an air of quiet confidence, his stance sharp, his composure a stark contrast to the reckless brawler before him. The announcer raised his hand. The signal rang out, and the second match began. Chen Feng moved like lightning, his speed dazzling, launching a barrage of precise strikes and a thunderous kick meant to overwhelm instantly. But Lin Zixin stood unfazed, raising a single hand to meet the blow, and with the smallest twist of his wrist, the force was turned back on its owner. Chen Feng spun like a rag doll, crashing onto the arena floor with such violence that the crowd gasped, and before he could even twitch, he was unconscious. Medics rushed in with a stretcher, muttering about concussions and head scans as they carried him away, leaving the audience in stunned confusion. Murmurs rippled through the stands. Was this luck? Had the first year stumbled into fortune twice? Angry voices rose, shouting accusations of rigging, demanding refunds. But the coach of Shanghai Nanhua knew the bitter truth. Clutching his head, his face pale, he realized with sinking horror that this boy from Shanghai wasn't lucky at all. He was real. Back in the waiting zone, the coach hastily summoned his next fighter, a spiky-haired boy named Gao Fei, and gave him strict, urgent orders. Defend at all costs, buy time, do not lose. Gao Fei, however, exuded smug assurance. He waved off the warnings, telling his coach not to worry, declaring that victory was already in his hands. As he made his way toward the stage, his thoughts seethed with arrogance. Lin Zixin's wins were nothing but tricks, flukes. Gao Fei was faster, stronger, more experienced. With a sprint speed under 9 seconds for 100 meters and the blood of a gene fusion user for a father, how could he possibly lose? The crowd buzzed with anticipation, whispering about Gao Fei's lineage, marveling at his speed, predicting that the miracle streak of Shanghai High's rookie was about to end. Though grudgingly admitting the boy had potential, the announcer dropped his hand, the fight began, and Gao Fei instantly betrayed his coach's instructions. With shout, he lunged in, launching a storm of kicks and punches, his signature style, the flowing water-shattering rock fist, unleashed in a rapid cascade. His coach screamed in fury from the sidelines, but Gao Fei scoffed at him, convinced geniuses didn't need to play cautious. Lin Zixin, however, only tilted his head with interest, weaving effortlessly around the blows, studying the movements like a scholar dissecting a scroll. Each strike he evaded added to his understanding, and in mere moments, he had already grasped the essence of Gao Fei's technique. Frustration burned across Gao Fei's face as his breath grew ragged. every attack missing its mark, until finally he froze mid-step and demanded, red-faced, how Lin Ziyin could possibly dodge so easily. Calmly, Lin Ziyin asked if he had anything else to show. His voice edged with teasing mockery. Gao Fei roared with rage, hurling himself forward in a last desperate barrage. But the predictability of his movements had already sealed his fate. Lin Ziyin's eyes sharpened. Enough observation. Time to finish this. With a fluid motion, he slipped past the final punch and drove his foot into Gao Fei's midsection. A single crushing kick that folded him in two and blasted him off his feet. Silence fell over the arena once more. Gao Fei lay sprawled, unmoving, as the announcer stammered out the winner's name. Then, like thunder breaking, cheers erupted from Shanghai High's supporters. Shen Qinghan bouncing with excitement, screaming that her Xiao Chen was unstoppable, while Coach Guo roared through his megaphone that their ace was a beast, celebrating his third straight victory. The tournament rolled on, but for Lin Ziyin, it was almost effortless. The next fighters, weaker still, fell like dominoes. One after another, he dismantled all 5 members of Shanghai No. 1's team single-handedly. The following days were no different. 2 more schools, their fighters defeated in succession, unable to last more than a few exchanges. By the final match, Lin Ziyin's dominance was absolute, and Shanghai High claimed the championship. Medals glinting and the trophy raised high as the team posed for victory. Yet as the celebration roared, Lin Ziyin's eyes flicked to his system screen, and his chest tightened with frustration. His rival counter sat pathetically at 16 out of 1,000. At this pace, unlocking the natural selection trait would take years. Still, there was comfort in one thing. He hadn't expected Coach Guo to be so generous. But after their triumph, the bulk of the prize money had been handed to him. A staggering 20,000 yuan. Combined with earlier winnings from academic competitions, he now had nearly 30,000 yuan at his disposal. And just as quickly as it came, it was gone. He spent every last coin stocking up on ghost shadow squid meat. For weeks, he devoured it at every meal, savoring each bite as the life essence seeped into him. 30 full gens later, his codex progress leapt to 33%. His strength surged, his training relentless hammered his body into something beyond human. By his second year of middle school, the breakthrough came. He ascended from ordinary Tier 3 to Tier 4. His power was staggering. He could lift 1,890 kilograms with a single hand. His vertical leap soared to 5.65 meters, and his sprint speed shattered records, crossing 100 meters in just 4.49 seconds. Time swept by like a rushing tide, and before long, Lin Ziyin and Shen Qinghan were standing at the end of their middle school journey, diploma in hand. Yet when the high school entrance exam results were released, the joy of graduation twisted into sorrow as their paths seemed to split apart. Shen Qinghan sat in her room, her eyes red from tears, her voice breaking as she asked why, after pouring her heart into training, they still couldn't walk into the same future together. Lin Ziyin gently explained that while his scores had placed him first in both liberal arts and martial arts, her academic results were excellent, but her martial arts score had fallen just short of the elite class cutoff at Shanghai High. She buried her face in her hands, asking helplessly what would happen now, and he told her the principal of Shanghai High would be visiting his house soon to recruit him. When he asked if she wanted to come, her heart sank further. She shook her head bitterly, saying the principal's interest had nothing to do with her. At that, he took her hand, firmly pulling her to her feet, telling her not to lose hope because he already had a plan. If they wanted him to join, he had one condition. Shen Qinghan had to be his deskmate. Sure enough, that evening, the principal herself arrived, sitting in their modest home with Lin Ziyin's mother and Shen Qinghan, discussing his future with earnest passion, stressing how much she wanted him to remain at Shanghai High. Hours passed, and as she prepared to leave, the principal gave a final offer, promising to fulfill any request he had if he agreed to enroll. Lin Ziyin seized the moment, stating calmly that his condition was for Shen Qinghan to be placed in the same class as him. The principal turned to Shen Qinghan, asked her name, and without hesitation nodded, granting the request with a smile, telling them to report together when the school year began. Shen Qinghan's eyes widened in disbelief before joy washed over her, and together she and Lin Ziyin bowed in gratitude, their futures secured side by side. Not long after, Lin Ziyin entered his final middle school martial arts tournament, and as expected, his sheer dominance crushed every opponent, securing another championship with ease. The prize money in hand, he made a decision. He was close to unlocking the Ghost Shadow Squid Codex, just 20% short, and this victory gave him enough to finish it. He traveled alone to a secluded forest on the outskirts of Shanghai, wary of what might happen once the process completed. Surrounded by the quiet rustle of leaves, he devoured the last of the squid meat, his body engulfed in a radiant blue glow as the system announced he was absorbing massive amounts of essence. His breath caught as the progress bar surged to 100%. A new notification flashing before his eyes. Ghost Shadow Squid Codex unlocked. New biological attribute obtained. Blessing of liquid affinity. Power rippled through him, granting harmony with water. The ability to slip through aquatic environments with ease, even vanish within them. But as the energy settled, he stood silently with squid tentacles limp in his hand. His expression mixed, because despite the dramatic display, the power felt underwhelming. Curious, he tested it at a nearby pond. Slipping into the cool waters, he discovered he could swim with less resistance, stay submerged without discomfort, and soak indefinitely without his skin wrinkling. Useful, yes, but not earth-shattering. Sitting waist-deep in the pond, he reasoned it out. The Ghost Shadow Squid was only a low-tier beast, so naturally the resulting ability wouldn't be overwhelming. If he wanted something truly extraordinary, he would need to save for rarer beast meat or one day hunt terrifying wild mutants himself. The memory of the monstrous rats he once encountered burned into his mind, hardening his resolve. Clenching his fist, he swore to climb higher, to grow strong enough to face creatures of that caliber without fear. With only a week left before school started, their families decided on a short trip together, and Lin Zichen suggested the beach so he could test his new affinity further. The salty breeze filled the air as waves lapped against their feet. Shen Qinghan shivering as she complained the water was too cold, while Lin Zichen felt perfectly at home, telling her to ease into it before diving straight in. The ocean embraced him like an old friend. His movements sliced through the waves with astonishing speed, and his system rewarded him with stat points for swimming and diving. From the shore, Shen Qinghan called nervously, begging him to teach her how to swim, and he laughed, suddenly remembering she had never learned. Expecting her to struggle, he patiently demonstrated the basics, but to his shock, she picked it up instantly, her body gliding through the water as though she'd done it her whole life. She surfaced, spluttering with joy, marveling aloud at how easy it felt. Diving under again and again with no hesitation, Lin Zichen's eyes narrowed in disbelief as he watched a faint blue aura shimmer around her body beneath the surface. When she returned to the surface, breathless and exhilarated, she exclaimed that the water felt amazing, that her eyes didn't sting at all, that it was cool and refreshing instead. He watched her slicing through the waves with a grace that made no sense, his thoughts spiraling as he tried to rationalize what he was seeing. Natural talent could not explain this. Not when she was mastering every movement as if she'd been born in the water. Not when her instincts outpaced months of training in mere minutes. Then it hit him like a lightning strike. A memory surfacing from their childhood. Her embarrassing, lifelong problem with bedwetting whenever she was nervous. For years, they'd thought it a weakness, but what if it was actually a hidden sign? What if Shen Qinghan carried some kind of innate water affinity? Perhaps even a rare cultivation body straight out of the Xianxia novels his parents used to read? The thought made his pulse quicken with excitement. Determined to test his theory, he urged her to dive again. And as they swam deeper, his suspicions grew stronger. The girl who had never touched open water before was now holding her breath for over 10 minutes without strain. Her movements fluid and unforced, as if she belonged beneath the surface. Just as he marveled, her expression twisted suddenly, and a strange vibration echoed through the water, a haunting resonance that made both of them freeze. They looked around wildly before bursting to the surface, Shen Qinghan gasping as luminous blue waves swirled unnaturally around her. That night, as they walked along the moonlit beach, Lin Zichen pressed her to explain what she had felt. Shaking and pale, she confessed that underwater she had heard something eerie, whispers right by her ear, a woman's voice speaking in a language she couldn't understand, repeating over and over until she couldn't take it anymore and surfaced. Seeing her distress, he wrapped his jacket over her shoulders and soothed her as best he could, though inside his mind raced with questions. Later, back at the hotel, he scoured the internet for answers, searching every forum and archive for mentions of aquatic whispers, strange voices, anything, but found nothing. Uneasy and restless, he turned to training, dropping into a grueling set of 1,000 weighted sit-ups, sweat dripping as the night stretched on. Halfway through, a rush of power ignited within him, and a system notification rang out. Ordinary Tier 5 achieved. His lips curved in satisfaction. His strength had ascended again. At this level, he realized with a shiver of excitement, he now rivaled the monstrous giant mutant rats that once terrified him. He could meet them head-on, even rip them apart with his bare hands. Hungry to test his new limits, he slipped out to the dark, empty beach. The changes were staggering. His 100-meter sprint time shattered to 3.64 seconds, his vertical leap soared to 6.98 meters, and when he gripped a parked car by its frame, he lifted the 600-kilogram vehicle with one hand as if it were little more than a toy. Exhilarated, he clenched his fist against the night sky, knowing his path was only just beginning. Soon the trip ended, and reality returned as he and Shen Qinghan stepped into their new life at Shanghai High. On their very first day, duty called them early to clean the classroom. And to his surprise, two new female classmates whispered excitedly about how handsome he was, marveling that they had been paired with him on day one. He felt awkward under their stares, but even stranger, the system chimed. New quest triggered. Achieve 1,000 cooperative tasks to unlock the biological attribute, social animal. As he swept alongside Shen Qinghan, he couldn't help but wonder with curiosity what benefit such an attribute would bring. After class, he made his way to the massive mammoth supermarket, ready to seek a new beast target now that the Ghost Shadow Squid Codex was complete. His eyes scanned the refrigerated cases until they froze on something extraordinary, the packaged head of a savage giant eagle. Its price tag reading 1,098 wen per jin. A thrill shot through him, his grin spreading wide. This was it. Unlike the squid, the eagle was a higher-tier, aberrant beast, famed for vision 30 times sharper than a human's, able to pinpoint the fastest prey with deadly precision. Back in his room, he studied the meat carefully, convinced this was a treasure worth every coin. Enhanced vision in combat would make him unstoppable. Placing his palm on the cold flesh, he felt the surge of blue energy as the system confirmed his first trace of absorption. 1% of the Savage Giant Eagle Codex unlocked. His excitement dimmed when he did the math. 1 jin equaled just 1%, meaning a full unlock required more than 200,000 wen. It was a staggering number, but not impossible, especially with the higher tournament rewards awaiting in high school. Determination hardened in his eyes. He would earn it no matter what. The summer vacation faded, and the true beginning of his high school life arrived. In the first homeroom session, the teachers introduced themselves one by one. After their introductions, it was time for the students to speak. A girl with flowing purple hair went first, her soft voice admitting her specialty lay in the arts. Next came an energetic pink-haired girl, bouncing with excitement as she declared her love for anime, cosplay, and sports. Then a boy, slouched in his seat, muttered that he liked video games more than anything else. When Shen Qinghan's turn came, she stood nervously, her cheeks flushed crimson as all eyes turned to her. With trembling hands clasped in front of her, she managed to say her name, admitted she enjoyed drawing, and politely asked for everyone's guidance in the future. Finally, Lin Zikin rose. He kept it sharp and simple, standing tall before the class and stating only his name before asking for everyone's support. The ice broke quickly after introductions, and soon the students were chatting amongst themselves. A brown-haired girl with a warm smile made her way over to Shen Qinghan, catching her off guard. She introduced herself as Chu Rui, and with curiosity sparkling in her eyes, asked about Shen Qinghan's entrance exam score. Shen, fidgeting nervously, admitted she had scored 709. Chu Rui's jaw dropped. Her own 698 suddenly felt small compared to such a number. She praised Shen Qinghan's result, but then shifted the conversation to the physical fitness portion, sheepishly admitting she had only managed 95 out of 100 and asking Shen how she had fared. The question hit like a knife. Shen Qinghan's face flushed red, and she stammered, too embarrassed to admit her true score of 79. A result so low she had barely made it into the elite class. Chu Rui, oblivious to her discomfort, kept guessing, cheerfully suggesting 94, then 93. Shen tried to lower her voice, murmuring that it had been worse. But the persistent girl continued tossing out numbers in the low 90s, making Shen's panic spiral. Suddenly, a loud thud cut through the awkwardness as a hand smacked against the desk, startling both girls. Lin Zikun leaned smoothly, his expression unreadable as he interrupted, turning his sharp gaze not on Shen Qinghan, but on Chu Rui herself. In a casual yet disarming tone, he asked if he could add her on WeChat. Chu Rui blinked, stunned by the unexpected attention, then lit up with delight, eagerly agreeing. Shen Qinghan let out a silent sigh of relief, thankful that he had pulled her out of that humiliating situation. Without missing a beat, Lin Zikun turned to another classmate, Yu, and asked to exchange contacts with him as well. Moments later, he created a 4-person group chat, and his system chimed in. Cooperative task complete. Progress toward the social animal achievement. 2 out of 1,000. He couldn't help but smirk inwardly. If tasks like this counted, the quest would be far easier than he imagined. The new group began to bond quickly. Yu revealed he came from nearby Nanyuan City, his family running a respected dojo, and proudly mentioned placing 8th in the city's youth martial arts competition. Chu Rui shared that her family owned a successful clothing chain, giving her a wealthy background. Shen Qinghan, still shy, spoke softly about her interests, and Lin Zikun kept his own introduction modest. The 4 grew comfortable with each other almost immediately, but then Yu leaned forward with a mischievous grin and asked who they thought was the strongest student in the class. Chu Rui didn't hesitate, pointing straight at Lin Zikun and declaring he had to be the one since he'd ranked first in the entire district's entrance exams. Yu nearly fell off his chair, floored by the revelation, while Lin Zikun calmly brushed it aside, saying top scores didn't necessarily equate to true strength. He then revealed something that shifted the mood entirely. The principal had spent heavily to recruit 2 top-tier students from Nanyuan City. Hiyu pointed them out across the room. The first, Wang Shoji, a flashy blonde who had placed 3rd in Nanyuan's rankings and could sprint the 100 meters in 7.98 seconds. And the second, Liu Gang, a hulking boy whose brute strength allowed him to one-hand lift a 300-kilogram barbell. Chu Rui and Shen Qinghan both gasped, clearly intimidated, their eyes widening with awe. But Lin Zikun remained stone-faced. Inside, he scoffed. These so-called prodigies were boasting feats he had surpassed back in elementary school. The bell rang, dragging them to their next class where textbooks were distributed. The 4 core subjects loomed ahead: martial arts, gene fusion, mechanical modification, and wilderness survival. Since Lin Zikun had already studied all of this in advance, he quietly slipped away when free, choosing instead to train in solitude. His thoughts turned grim as he recalled the lurking danger of the rat god cult. The authorities had only managed to capture expendable low-level heretics, while the true leader, the elusive Rat King, remained at large. His jaw clenched as he vowed to push himself harder, to break into Tier 6 as quickly as possible. Only then would he stand a chance against such a monster. The first practical lesson was wilderness survival. Their instructor, Shi Chengbei, led them into the woods and asked who knew how to start a fire with nothing but sticks and determination. Hiyu scoffed, muttering it was useless in the modern world. But to everyone's surprise, both Wang Shoji and Liu Gang stepped forward, managing to spark flames with primitive drilling methods. The teacher praised them, asking how they learned. Liu Gang said from summer camp, Wang Shoji boasted he'd taught himself online. After they finished showing off, Lin Zikun casually demonstrated the same method to his smaller group, and within minutes, they too had mastered it. Later, in martial arts class, their teacher Yaiyuan Feng announced he would teach them a special breathing and cultivation technique. Yet again, Wang Shuoji and Liu Gang loudly claimed they already knew it, stumbling through a demonstration to flaunt their experience. Lin Zikun, who had long since mastered it, chose to remain quiet, letting them have their moment. In this way, weeks slipped by in relative peace. But in mechanical modification class, everything changed. Their instructor, Kai Yuanfei, surprised the students with a test, sweetening the challenge with prizes: 888 yuan for first place, 666 for second, and 333 for third. Lin Zikun's heart leapt. The top prize was nearly enough for half a jin of savage giant eagle meat. Then, to pile on the pressure, their gene fusion teacher, Liu Duren, had the same idea, announcing another exam with the exact same prize structure. The students groaned at the sudden double assault. When the exhausting trials ended, the class was in shambles. Hiyu collapsed onto his desk, moaning in despair, while other students griped that the questions were brutal. One girl sighed that she had hoped for a 90, but now prayed she could scrape a 60. But in the back, Wang Shoji and Liu Gang were laughing together, their arrogance on full display. Liu Gang casually asked his friend how he had done, and Wang Shoji confidently replied that he should score at least a 95, since only the last part of the final question had given him trouble. Liu Gang chuckled and agreed, saying he too expected a 95. Their smugness filled the air like poison. Hiyu glared at them, fists tightening on his desk, his blood boiling with the desire to smash their cocky grins into the floor. The day of reckoning had arrived. The mechanical augmentation test results were finally being announced. The teacher's voice cut through the tense classroom air. Guo Yanling scored 52 points. A murmur ran through the room. Shen Qinghan passed with 61 points. Shen Qinghan's face lit up. She turned to Lin Zichen, excitement bubbling over. I passed. Lin Zichen smiled warmly and congratulated her on her effort. The teacher's next announcement drew more attention. Hiyu achieved 88 points. Cheers erupted from his friends. Humble as ever, Hiyu brushed it off as luck, promising to treat everyone to a meal with his third-place prize of 333 wen. Then came a voice that radiated confidence. Liu Gang and Wang Shuji both scored 95, just as they predicted. The teacher praised their precision. They were only a single question away from perfection. Wang Shuji bragged boldly, "If I had 10 more minutes, I could have nailed the last question." Liu Gang nodded in agreement. Nearby, Hiyu's pride took a hit, but he consoled himself. Third place was still his. Suddenly, the teacher paused dramatically, and the top score, a perfect 100, goes to Lin Ziqian. The classroom exploded. Gasps and cheers filled the air. Even Hiyu, stung by his own defeat, couldn't help but admire Lin Ziqian's brilliance. Shen Qinghan and Chu Rui joined in, hailing Lin Ziqian's victory as the pride of Shanghai. Yet Lin Ziqian remained unshaken, his eyes glinting with focus. Raising his hand, he asked, "Teacher Kai, when will the 888 wen first-place prize be distributed?" The teacher chuckled inwardly, noting the boy's unusual obsession with the reward. An hour later, the gene fusion exam results were announced. This time, the Nangguan duo faltered. Liu Gang earned 81, Wang Shuji 83. Good scores, but nowhere near their expectations. Shen Qinghan, in contrast, soared with 78 points, landing in the top 5 and celebrating her achievement alongside Chu Rui. And once again, Lin Ziqian secured a flawless 100, effortlessly claiming the first prize. The impact was crushing. He Yu, Wang Shuji, and Lu Gang were left demoralized. Wang Shuji and Lu Gang's disbelief turned to suspicion. How could anyone possibly get full marks on such a difficult test? The teacher's response was swift and resolute. Impossible. I designed every question myself. The answers aren't online. Their accusations died on the spot. Meanwhile, He Yu and Chu Rui couldn't resist mocking the duo. After lunch, the practical exam began. Wilderness survival. Cash prizes awaited the top 3. Wang Shuji turned to Lu Gang, determination burning in his eyes. We must redeem ourselves today. Lu Gang agreed, and together they cast steely glares at Lin Ziqian, vowing to crush him. The first challenge. Climbing. Lin Ziqian dominated immediately, scaling the rock wall with lightning speed. The Nungguan duo struggled far behind. The second climbing event, tree climbing, ended identically. Lin Ziqian remained untouchable. Wang Shuji could only mutter in disbelief. I couldn't even see a shadow. Despite his victories, Lin Ziqian's mind was on Shen Qinghan, who struggled during climbing. He knew her strength lay elsewhere. She would shine in the water. Next, the fire-starting task demanded precision and speed. Lin Ziqian's hands moved like lightning, and within 58 seconds, a fire roared to life. Wang Shuji and Lu Gang stared, utterly flabbergasted. How could someone be so fast at everything? Their shock was palpable. Finally, it was time for swimming. Here, Shen Qinghan unleashed her true talent. She sliced through the water with astonishing speed, leaving the Nungguan duo in her wake. Their confidence shattered further as they struggled to comprehend her explosive ability. Wang Shuji's disbelief reached its peak. He could only conclude that he must be hallucinating. After exam, Wang Shuji and Lu Gang, laying in exhaustion, their faces drained of color, their minds racing. But the quiet wouldn't last. Soon, the martial arts final began. The teacher's voice rang out sharply. It's time for the sparring competition. Top 3 will be rewarded. The words reignited a spark in Wang Shuji and Lu Gang. Pride surged through them. They would reclaim their honor. After all, this was martial arts class, where technique and physical power mattered above all. If Lin Ziqian was weak in combat, his other victories meant nothing. Before sparring, the teacher ordered a warm-up test. A 100-meter sprint, a one-hand barbell lift, and a vertical jump. Lin Ziqian, deliberately holding back to avoid overdoing it, still performed astonishing feats. He sprinted 100 meters in 7.78 seconds, hoisted a 330-kilogram barbell with one hand, and leapt 2.18 meters vertically, taking first place in every test with just a slight edge over the Nungguan duo. Shock froze Wang Shuji and Lu Gang. How is he so fast? Wang Shuji muttered, eyes wide. Lu Gang stared, dumbfounded by the sheer strength of someone who didn't even look muscular. Desperate to cling to hope, Wang Shuji reminded himself and Lu Gang that combat wasn't just strength, it was technique. Perhaps they still had a chance. The sparring matches began. Lin Ziqian stepped into the ring, prepared to assert his dominance, but nobody dared to challenge him, not even Wang Shuji or Lu Gang. The teacher, seeing the stalemate, called out Liu Wei to face Lin Ziqian. The duel barely started before it ended. A single, devastating punch from Lin Ziqian sent Liu Wei flying, ending the match instantly. One by one, Lin Ziqian eliminated every other student with terrifying efficiency. Wang Shuji and Lu Gang watched in horror, their hearts sinking. He wasn't even going all out, Wang Shuji whispered, disbelief written across his face. How can anyone beat him? Suddenly, He Yu leapt into the ring, pointing at Liu Gang. I'm at my peak. Let's fight. Liu Gang, eager to assert himself, accepted, confident he could defeat He Yu in under 30 seconds. The clash was fierce but brief. Liu Gang caught He Yu's kick, twisted him with raw power, and hurled him out of the ring. He Yu landed hard, defeated and vomiting, while Liu Gang stood over him, triumphant yet smug. Your technique is impressive, but I am still better. Lin Ziqian approached next. Calm and collected, he issued a sparring challenge. Fresh off his victory, Liu Gang accepted confidently. The fight began with a powerful punch from Liu Gang, but Lin Ziqian moved with impossible speed, leaving afterimages. Before Liu Gang could react, Lin Ziqian's counterkick struck his back, sending him flying out of the ring in a single devastating blow. The Nungguan duo had fallen, leaving Wang Shuji to carry their shattered pride. The class jeered. Wang Shuji, will you avenge your friend, or are you going to chicken out? Wang Shuji gritted his teeth and charged into the ring. Stealing his resolve, he reminded himself, what must come will come. He would find a way to fight. He screamed and launched a furious attack. But Lin Ziqian effortlessly blocked it with one hand and delivered a single crushing strike that sent Wang Shuji spinning upside down. He crashed onto the gym floor, unconscious and foaming at the mouth. With the Nangguan duo defeated, Lin Zixin systematically dispatched the remaining boys with the same effortless precision. Once the male students were taken care of, he checked his system. Defeating the same opponent multiple times only counted once for his survival of the fittest achievement. That left only the girls. To his surprise, the female students eagerly stepped forward, blushing and making heart gestures, each wanting a chance to spar. The first to challenge him was Chiyo Yutong. She leapt into the ring with remarkable speed and agility, but Lin Zixin was on another level. He dodged with ease, leaving her impressed yet frustrated. One by one, the other girls took their turns. Lin Zixin held back, ensuring victory without harming them, focusing solely on completing his achievement quickly. Finally, every student had been defeated. The teacher announced a thrilling new challenge. As elite students, you must learn to face those stronger than yourselves. In 1 month, your class will challenge the strongest regular class in the second year. Lin Zixin's eyes lit up. A fresh battlefield awaited, perfectly timed for his ambitions. A grin spread across his face. Finally, a worthy challenge was coming straight to his doorstep. After the teacher dismissed the class, Liu Gang approached Lin Zixin, his usual arrogance replaced by humility. I misjudged this school, and you. From now on, you are my rival for the next 3 years. Wang Shuji didn't hold back either. I will avenge my defeat before graduation. He growled, eyes blazing. Lin Zixin, however, was far more practical. He quickly tallied his earnings from the exams. Over 3,000 yuan in prizes. Excitement lit his eyes. Beast meat could now be bought without restraint. Clenching his fist, he ignored the fuming Nangguan duo, their anger only sharpening his sense of amusement. That night, in the solitude of his room, Lin Zixin analyzed his finances. Despite the rewards, he still lacked enough money for the beast meat he needed. A plan formed in his mind. He would follow his parents' path and register as a web novel author. With his celestial root of wisdom, his writing would be unparalleled. The very next morning, a contract invitation from the UN platform appeared in his messages. He signed without hesitation. Then, news arrived that made his heart pound. 2 hours ago, a monstrous incident had occurred. A 5-meter-long mutant rat had attacked a frozen meat storage facility on the outskirts of Shanghai. The creature was so powerful, it tore a responding cyborg in half. In a final desperate act, the cyborg activated its hidden backup core, self-destructing and obliterating the mutant rat. The resulting explosion was catastrophic. Lin Zixin stared at the image of the shattered beast, his mind racing. How many more such creatures lurked in Shanghai? Where could they possibly hide? Days later, the long-awaited sparring session against the strongest regular class of the second year arrived. The Shanghai High Gymnasium buzzed with anticipation. Before the match, the teacher gathered the top fighters for a strategy meeting. The opposing class is strong as a whole. They will likely adopt defensive tactics to wear you down. Finish your matches quickly. Lin Zixin, eager to rack up victories and advance his achievement, immediately volunteered to go first. His opponent? A tall, long-haired, white-haired girl from the second year. The moment she saw him, she protested loudly to her teacher. He's the elite class's strongest fighter. I'm the weakest. How am I supposed to fight him? Teacher Yaoyuan Feng stormed over to confront the opposing teacher, an older man called Brother Feng. This breaks the unspoken rules of sparring. The weakest should always go first. Why send your strongest student first? To settle the dispute, he ordered Lin Zixin to step down and wait while the weaker students went first. Reluctantly, Lin Zixin complied. The first to enter the ring was Shen Qinghan. I should go first, she volunteered, stepping forward nervously. She was fully aware she was the weakest among her class, but determination burned in her eyes. As she faced the towering blonde girl, intimidation threatened to freeze her. Her classmates, including Chu Rui and He Yu, cheered loudly from the sidelines. The encouragement only heightened her anxiety. The match began. The blonde girl launched a ferocious punch, which Shen Qinghan miraculously blocked. She was outmatched in every way, but she refused to yield. Adopting a purely defensive strategy, she focused on draining her opponent's stamina. Minutes dragged on. 3 full minutes later, the blonde girl's breathing was heavy. Surprise flashed across her face. This weak opponent had endurance beyond expectation. She realized she needed to end the fight swiftly. With a final decisive strike, Shen Qinghan was knocked to the ground, defeated. She rose, embarrassed but resolute. Teacher Yaoyuan Feng nodded approvingly, giving her a thumbs up. Smart strategy. You held your ground for over 3 minutes against a senior with an extra year of training. Lin Zixin patted her head gently. You did amazing. Your endurance was incredible and you've made great progress. Shen Qinghan beamed, her nervousness melting into pride. Next, a brown-haired girl from the elite class entered the ring. Sensing her senior opponent's fatigue from the previous match, she attacked recklessly. The senior, with experience and precision, dodged and countered with a swift punch to the face. The brown-haired girl was overpowered in seconds, pinned to the ground, crying out in pain. The senior sneered, charging in recklessly won't win you anything. Train for another year and come back. Churui stepped forward, determination blazing in her eyes. I will avenge Shen Qinghan. In a single, devastating punch, she defeated her senior opponent. Shen Qinghan cheered, her voice filled with joy. Lin Zichen smiled, explaining gently, "Your victory was possible because you drained her stamina first. You made it easier for Chu Rui to finish the fight." Shen Qinghan's face lit up with a proud, happy smile, reassured and motivated for the battles ahead. 2 hours into the sparring session, the atmosphere in the gym was electric. Brother Feng, the second-year teacher, leaned forward, a confident grin on his face as he taunted the elite class's instructor. "Only 4 fighters left? This bet is mine. My class will win, no doubt." Then, turning to his students, Yaoyuan Feng warned, "Do not underestimate us. The real strength of our class lies with these 4. Lin Zichen, Wang Shuji, Lu Gang, and He Yu." At that moment, He Yu was called to the ring. He cracked his knuckles, a determined glint in his eyes. With a dramatic stomp, he struck a fighting pose and theatrically shouted at his senior opponent, "Are you ready?" "My fists are thirsty for battle." The senior, a brown-haired boy, merely smirked. "Stop being so childish," he retorted. He Yu lunged immediately, delivering a swift kick that sent the senior crashing to the mat. Standing over him, He Yu taunted, "Where did you get the courage to act so tough with such low skill? Trash." The crowd laughed, but their amusement vanished as a more formidable opponent stepped forward, a purple-tinged-haired senior, eyes blazing. "Arrogant brat," he growled, lunging at He Yu with a punch meant to teach him humility. But He Yu moved with blinding speed, dodging effortlessly. A single devastating kick followed, and the purple-haired senior flew out of the ring, unconscious. Cheers erupted from Shen Qinghan and Chu Rui, their voices ringing out in encouragement. Fueled by his victories, He Yu continued, taking down 5 more opponents in rapid succession. But stamina has limits. Exhausted and panting after his 5th consecutive fight, He Yu tried to rally, shouting defiantly, "Next, I can take on 10 more." Yet it was clear, his energy was waning. The 6th opponent struck, and He Yu fell, eliminated. The elite class was now in a precarious position, 3 fighters remaining, while the second-year class still had 13 students. Wang Shuji was next. He poured every ounce of strength into the fight, moving with a flurry of furious kicks and punches, defeating 10 opponents in a dazzling display. But even he could not escape fatigue forever. During his 11th match, his energy gave out, and he was finally defeated. Liu Gong stepped forward, confident. In less than 10 minutes, he dispatched 2 top fighters from the opposing team. The elite class's teacher glanced at the dwindling numbers of the second-year students and suggested surrender. Brother Feng only smirked. "Not yet." He called forth his final student, Wang Jinhai. A massive, towering figure stepped into the ring, an imposing presence that made even Liu Gang pause. Dismissing him as a slightly larger fatty, Liu Gang attacked confidently, landing a powerful punch to Wang Jinhai's belly. Yet it had no effect. Striking again with a barrage of rapid punches, he was met with the same result, immovable. Like striking solid rubber, exhaustion crept in, and Liu Gang realized his attacks were futile. Wang Jinhai barely moved, his calm gaze fixed on Liu Gang. "Finished?" he asked quietly. Before Liu Gang could react, Wang Jinhai seized him by the neck and, with a single effortless motion, hurled him out of the ring. The elite class now had only 1 fighter left. Teacher Yaoyuan Feng's eyes widened in disbelief. I don't remember the second-year class having such a strong student." Brother Feng, smirking, revealed the secret. Wang Jinhai was a new transfer, arriving this semester. With a sly grin, he reminded Yaoyuan Feng of the bet. Dinner for the losing class, it seemed, was inevitable. Yaoyuan Feng clenched his fists, tension radiating from him. Not even Lin Zichen might be enough to overcome this monstrous opponent. Yet he pushed his worry aside, placing a reassuring hand on Lin Zichen's shoulder. "It's your turn. Just do your best. Winning isn't everything. The experience will be valuable." Lin Zichen smiled calmly. "Don't worry, teacher. I'll win." His confidence radiating so strongly that Yaoyuan Feng was left speechless, unable to find a single word in response. Then, Lin Zichen stepped into the ring, calm and composed. His opponent, Wang Jinhai, towered above him, casting a dismissive gaze. "This is your final ace? You look weak, hardly a threat." From the sidelines, Shen Qinghan, Chu Rui, and the other girls of the elite class erupted into shouts. "Arrogant fatty, teach him a lesson, Lin Zichen," they screamed, teasing and cheering him on. Annoyed by the taunts, Wang Jinhai decided to make the fight fair. "I'll stand still and let you land 10 hits," he said, smirking. "I don't want you or your fangirls to cry later about me bullying a smaller opponent." Lin Zichen's eyes sparkled. "Perfect," he said with a smile. Wang Jinhai nodded, daring him. "Come at me with everything you've got." Without hesitation, Lin Zichen's fist shot forward. A single devastating punch to Wang Jinhai's massive stomach. The impact was thunderous. Wang Jinhai flew across the ring, crashing hard onto the floor, completely unconscious. Silence fell over the gym. broken only by the explosive, tearful cheer from the elite class as they celebrated Lin Zixin's astonishing victory. Moments later, Wang Jinghe groaned, slowly regaining consciousness. Disoriented, he muttered, Where am I? How is this even possible? This is illogical, unscientific. After the chaos settled, the second-year teacher approached Yao Yuanfeng, the elite class teacher. That boy is something else. Eyes wide, Lin Zixin's one-punch victory over Wang Jinghe reminds me of Wu Tiancheng. Yao Yuanfeng shook his head. He's strong, yes, but not at Wu Tiancheng's level. That boy was a monster as a first year. Terrified even the principal. Curious, Lin Zixin stepped forward. Who is Wu Tiancheng? He asked. Yao Yuanfeng's eyes lit up. A legend. A first year who single-handedly defeated the entire third-year elite class. His stats? A 100-meter dash in 6.12 seconds, a 3.96-meter vertical jump, and a 650-kilogram one-handed barbell lift. Impressive, right? Lin Zixin smiled politely. A little impressive, he admitted, but internally he thought, that's just what I was capable of during 6th grade summer vacation. Nothing extraordinary. That evening, the elite class celebrated their victory at a restaurant. Teacher Yao Yuanfeng held up a soda. A toast, he exclaimed. Thanks to Lin Zixin, our bet is honored. The second-year teacher is buying. Glasses clinked, cheers erupted, and Lin Zixin found himself surrounded by classmates. Hiyu, Churui, and even new admirers eager for training tips and WeChat connections. Amid the chaos, Shen Qinghan quietly placed food on Lin Zixin's plate, her gesture unnoticed by most. Suddenly, she froze. Eyes wide. I need to go to the restroom, she blurted and hurried away. Lin Zixin smiled inwardly. Some things never change. Her nervous bladder remained the same. In the restroom, two classmates whispered cruelly. Look at her, fawning over Lin Zixin like a maid, always pouring drinks, peeling shrimp. One sneered. The other nodded. She's weak, and yet here she is in the elite class. It won't last. The difference in strength will tear them apart. Shen Qinghan overheard everything. Pain flickered across her face, but she didn't flee. Steeling herself, she confronted them. I am not a sycophant, she said firmly. I am his childhood friend. The girls froze. Later, walking home, Lin Zixin noticed her somber expression. What's wrong? Shen Qinghan looked down. My mother said I'd grow out of it, but I still have to wear diapers at night. I feel broken. Like I can't even control my own body. Lin Zixin placed his hands on her shoulders, looking her in the eyes. You are not broken. This isn't a weakness. It's a superpower waiting to awaken. Her eyes widened, filled with hope. A superpower? Exactly. Lin Zixin said confidently. Your talent in the water is part of it. And me? I have a superpower too. Shen Qinghan's excitement bubbled over. Really? Then what kind of power do I have? Lin Zixin smiled. A very powerful one. You'll see soon enough. Their conversation was interrupted. Ahead, a special team in protective gear cordoned off a building. A man in an apron frantically swung a broom at a swarm of massive rats, screaming at the exterminators. Stop! They're my brothers. I will fight you to the death. Shen Qinghan stared, horrified. Has he lost his mind? Lin Zixin nodded grimly. Probably mentally unstable, but it's tragic. That's just how some people are. Let's go home. Later that night, the soft glow of the television flickered through the Lin Zixin's living room. His parents sat beside him, eyes fixed on a breaking news report. The anchor's voice trembled as she announced another young female teacher had vanished a week ago, and still no trace had been found. Zixin's mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. This is the 4th one this month, she cried. His father's voice cut in, low and grim. No, the 5th. On screen, the broadcast displayed photos 5 smiling young women, each full of life, now missing. The anchor warned all young women to avoid walking alone after dark. The air in the room grew heavy. Zixin's mother turned to him, her voice trembling. You must not let Shen Qinghan go anywhere alone. Promise me. Zixin smiled gently and nodded. Meanwhile, across the city at the Public Security Bureau of Shanghai, a very different scene unfolded. The man captured at the market sat motionless in an interrogation room, his expression blank. A doctor in a white lab coat stood beside a police officer outside the glass window. So, what's your diagnosis? The officer asked uneasily. Is he mentally unstable? The doctor shook his head slowly. I can't be sure. He won't speak, won't respond at all. It's like talking to a wall. The officer frowned. That's strange. He was screaming like a madman at the market earlier. His voice trailed off. Then suddenly his eyes widened in horror. He spun around just as the silent man's body began to twist and convulse. A dark aura spread like smoke around him. The doctor stumbled back. What's happening? In seconds, the man's form exploded outward, bones snapping, muscles bulging until before them stood a grotesque monstrosity, a gigantic aberrant rat, its red eyes glowing with fury. Call for backup, now! The officer screamed into his radio. We need a cyborg team immediately. The suspect is transforming into a giant aberrant beast. Gunfire echoed down the corridor as police squads rushed in, unleashing a storm of bullets. But the shots barely slowed the creature down. It roared, shattering glass and sending debris flying. Our weapons aren't enough, a female officer shouted. Headquarters says all cyborgs are deployed. The director's face hardened. We can't hold it here. Lure it out, get it to the outskirts. The female officer slammed into the driver's seat of a police van. Everyone in. Move. Tires screeched as the van tore through the streets, the monstrous rat leaping from building to building behind them. The van shot up a twisting mountain road. Entered a tunnel, the beast was right behind. With a deafening roar, it slammed into the van. The vehicle spun violently. Metal shrieked, glass shattered, and then impact. A brutal crash. The van lay overturned, smoke rising. The female officer hung upside down, bleeding, whispering bitterly, "We still couldn't make it." Then a blinding explosion. A thunderous boom ripped through the tunnel. Flames erupted as a voice echoed through the smoke. Target lock terminate. From the sky descended a female cyborg, short purple hair gleaming beneath her helmet, armor flashing violet. She unleashed a storm of homing missiles, whoosh, 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 each one exploding with devastating power. The ground shook, the tunnel filled with fire. When the smoke cleared, she landed lightly, scanning the area. But there in the debris, a hole dug deep into the ground. The beast had escaped. Far away, the city slept beneath the dim glow. Lin Zishan sat before his computer. His eyes reflected the pale screen as he typed line after line, his thoughts racing. He'd been updating his web novel daily for over half a month, nearly 200,000 words already. And now, for the first time, his income had crossed 10,000 yuan. The number pulsed on his screen, and his heart raced. This is just the beginning, he whispered. The book was still new, its real launch yet to come. He couldn't help imagining how much higher could it climb. Excitement burned too hot for sleep. So he decided to train. Under the pale glow of a streetlight, he found a deserted alley, no cameras, no eyes. He took a deep breath and began. His movements cut through the night like lightning. Each stride was faster, each jump higher. When he stopped, his pulse roared in his ears. He took his time 100 meters in 3.43 seconds, and his vertical jump a staggering 7.22 meters. A grin spread across his face. Not bad. At this rate, I'll soon reach the saint body. Until a faint sound broke through the stillness. Slowly, he turned toward the dark end of the alley. His eyes narrowed there. Half hidden in the shadows, crouched a strange figure. Zikin's stomach churned as the figure shifted under the flickering streetlight, revealing itself, a hideous hybrid of man and rat fur matted, teeth long and yellow, claws caked with filth. The creature chewed noisily, then froze as it met his gaze. "Don't kill me," it shrieked, voice high and trembling. "I didn't mean to. I was just too hungry. Please forgive me. Once I'm full, I'll come pay my respects every year." Lin Zikin's breath caught. A mouse man. A living, breathing aberration. His mind raced the news report. The escaped mutant rat. Could this be it? The same creature, now wearing a twisted parody of a human form? Every instinct screamed danger. He took a slow step back, ready to alert the authorities. But at that moment, the creature's eyes widened in panic. You're going to tell them, aren't you?" It stammered, backing up against the wall. No, I can't let you. I don't have to eat you. I can find someone else." Its voice broke into a guttural snarl. "No, I'll eat you instead." Before Zikin could move, the mouse man launched itself off the wall faster than his eyes could track. It bounced between both sides of the narrow alley with blinding speed, leaving streaks of motion in the air. "Human meat! I want human meat!" The creature lunged, jaws wide. There was no time to dodge. No escape. Zikin clenched his fists, muscles tensing, heart slamming against his ribs. "Then come," he roared, and met the charge head-on. In a split second, his leg whipped upward, crack. His kick connected squarely with the monster's jaw. The impact sounded like thunder. The mouseman's body twisted in midair, spinning violently before slamming into the ground with a sickening crunch. It groaned, clutching its bleeding chest, staring up in disbelief. What? How? You're just a student." But Zishin didn't answer. His eyes were cold, steady. Then thunk. A rock flew from his hand and smashed into the creature's head. Before it could recover, another rock came, then another and another. Thud. Crack. Thud. The air filled with the sound of stone colliding with flesh and bone. Zikin's attacks came faster than bullets, each throw perfectly aimed, each strike devastating. The mouseman howled in agony, trying to crawl away, but the barrage was merciless. When it finally ended, silence fell. Zikin stood at the mouth of the alley, chest heaving, eyes fixed on motionless heap before him. Steam rose from the remains. Carefully, he stepped closer and froze. The creature wasn't just dead. It was destroyed. Nothing left but blackened bones, still smoking from the energy discharge of his strikes. He hesitated, then reached out, touched the bones. A surge of blue energy shot through him, electric and cold. His body stiffened as a faint holographic screen flickered before his eyes. Life source absorbed codex. Progress plus 2%. Total 7%. Zicken exhaled sharply. Only 2% this time. Last one gave me 5. He frowned, analyzing the data. Must be. Because of the difference in Rat King gene concentration, the alley was eerily quiet again. Dawn's first light was beginning to touch the rooftops. He decided to leave this place reeked of death. Moments after he disappeared into the mist, a faint hum filled the air. A figure dropped from above a female cyborg, short purple hair glinting under the pale sky. She surveyed the scene, scanning the scorched bones. Who did this? She murmured. No human could kill a rat man this cleanly. Her visor flickered with data, but the signal was cold. Whoever it was, they were already gone. Miles away. Hidden in a derelict warehouse, another nightmare stirred. A crimson circle glowed on the floor, symbols writhing like living worms. Hooded cultists chanted, voices thick with dread. One of them dragged an unconscious woman forward, laying her in the center of the sigil. Great Lord Rat God, the cultist cried, bowing low. Your offering, please accept her flesh. The shadows trembled. From the darkness, multiple red eyes blinked open, each one burning with hunger. A deep, guttural voice rumbled through the room. Only one? Do you dare starve me? The cultist dropped to his knees, shaking. My lord, forgive me. It's getting harder. The women, they move in groups now. They never walk alone. The monstrous shape moved closer, towering over him, its form vast, its breath hot and rancid. Then bring men, it thundered. If you can't find women, bring young men instead. Yes, my lord, at once. A massive, bloody chunk of meat fell from above, splattering onto the floor. The cultist scrambled forward, seizing it with trembling hands. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for your blessing. He tore into the flesh like a starving animal, blood smearing his face as he ate. The ritual circle flared brighter. Long, serpentine tongues of crimson energy rose from the glowing sigil, wrapping around the unconscious woman. She floated upward, limp, helpless, as the monstrous maw opened wide beneath her. Crunch. The rat god devoured her whole. The sound of chewing filled the room, wet, monstrous, endless. After a long silence, the voice spoke again, darker than before. No more ordinary humans. It hissed. Their meat is bitter. I want the flesh of the nobles, the ones who live in luxury. Their meat will be tender. Scene shifts, Lin Zixin stood beside Shen Qinghan inside her house, the air thick with tension and effort. Sweat gleamed on her forehead as she tried to perfect her stance. No, not like that. His voice was calm but commanding. He reached out and gently adjusted her arm, then shifted her shoulders and stance. Here, you're losing power through your footing. Keep your center low, feel the ground. He guided her step by step, explaining how each motion connected to the next. How strength came from balance and precision rather than brute force. Once her form looked right, he stepped back and said, all right, hit me, full strength. Shen Qinghan hesitated for a second, then launched forward with a sharp punch, eyes filled with determination. Lin Zixin caught her fist effortlessly. Smiling faintly. Better, he said. The angle's cleaner and your power improved. She tried to follow up with a kick, but he caught her leg midair before she could pull it back. Too wide, he pointed out, lowering her foot and demonstrating the proper range with a precise movement, like this. Short, controlled, and fast. The practice went on until both were drenched in sweat. Finally, Qinghan collapsed to the floor, panting hard but smiling. I can feel it. I'm getting stronger. Lin chuckled. You are. Your progress is faster than you think. Still kneeling, Shen Qinghan looked up, determination burning in her eyes. 3 sessions a week isn't enough. Let's train every day. Lin shook his head immediately. No. You'd break your body before improving your strength. Intensity without rest ruins progress. After a moment, she sighed and nodded. All right, we'll keep it at 3. Just then, his phone buzzed. Shen Qinghan leaned closer, curious. What's that? A news alert? Lin glanced at the screen, frowning. 2 major headlines filled his display. The first read, Jixian Corporation announces free treatment for former mechanical prodigy girls disabled by early cybernetic modifications. But it was the second that froze him in place. 18-year-old genius from Kyoto University successfully completes dual gene fusion with 1,000-threaded spider beast. Lin's eyes widened. So it's him. He whispered, his longtime rival, the prodigy from the capital, the one he had quietly competed with for years. Most people couldn't even survive a single gene fusion until adulthood, but this genius had achieved 2 before turning 19. Days passed. Back at home, Lin's attention turned once more to his other pursuit, his writing career. His novel had exploded in popularity overnight. Comment sections were flooded with admiration and disbelief. How can a human write 50,000 words in one day? One reader joked. He's not human, he's a tentacle monster. Another teased. Lin smiled faintly as he typed, fingers dancing across the keyboard. Thanks to his unique attributes, use in advance and celestial root of wisdom, His mental and physical efficiency had reached inhuman levels, 10,000 words per hour. He thought proudly, 1 hour of writing, and the rest of the day is mine. When his father walked in and saw the stats on the screen, his eyes lit up. You've done it, Zishin. If you keep this pace and the story stays strong, you'll easily make 50,000 yuan this month. Maybe even 100,000 once your chapters stack up. Lin grinned. The idea of earning that much filled him with a burning excitement. With that kind of income, he thought, I can finally fund my Beast Codex research. He made up his mind. His first 2 months of income would go toward unlocking the Savage Giant Eagle Codex. Weeks later, in his martial arts class, the teacher announced a sparring test. Lin Zichen's performance was nothing short of monstrous. One after another, his classmates fell, each bout ending in seconds. His kicks landed like thunder, his punches cracked like breaking stone. Not a single opponent managed to land a hit. When it was over, the teacher clapped his hands, clearly impressed. Excellent work, Lin Zichen. Here's your prize, 888 wen. Lin accepted it with a nod, silently calculating the experience gained toward his survival of the fittest achievement. Yet while he dominated, Shen Qinghan's match told a different story. Despite her efforts, she still placed last. Her friend Chu Rui tried to cheer her up, but even she couldn't hide the disappointment. Still, things had changed. A memory flashed. Her last match, when she had been defeated in under 3 seconds. This time, she lasted 3 full minutes and even landed blows. Her teacher, seeing her improvement, smiled warmly. Good job, Qinghan. That's the spirit. Keep pushing. As the sparring ended, the teacher gathered everyone and made an announcement that electrified the class. In 1 month, we'll challenge the second-year elite class. He declared, your goal? Defeat all of them except their top 3. The room erupted in cheers. The fire in everyone's eyes matched his own. That's the energy I want, the teacher shouted. Time flew. 1 month later, Lin Zichen checked his bank balance. The number blinked on the screen, 89,000 wen. A satisfied smile crossed his face. Perfect, he murmured. Without wasting time, he headed straight to the supermarket. At the counter, a young female employee greeted him. Welcome. What would you like today? Savage giant eagle meat, he replied. How much per jin? She brightened. There's a special promotion right now. If you buy 100 jin in one go, you get a 5% discount. Lin paused, calculating quickly. It was tempting, but his funds were just short. After a moment of thought, he shook his head. Oh wait, next month I'll buy all 100 at once. The next morning at school, Shen Qinghan practically dragged Lin Zichen toward the cafeteria. They've opened a new stir-fry counter. I heard the chef's dishes are insane, she said, eyes sparkling. Lin Zichen smirked and nodded. All right, let's check it out. At the counter, a symphony of sizzling and fragrant spices filled the air. Both of them paused for a moment, letting the aroma wash over them. Once their trays were full, they found a spot and sat down. Lin Zichen glanced around. Good thing we came early. Look at that line forming already. Before they could take a bite, a loud commotion erupted in the queue. Voices raised, insults thrown. One student accused another of cutting, but the second insisted his desk mate had saved his place. The argument escalated sharply. Voices clashing, tempers flaring. Shen Qinghan's eyes widened. Lin Zichen. That's he's arguing with them, she whispered. Lin Zichen glanced over casually. Probably nothing. He's got that intimidating aura. Likely scared them off already. He was wrong. The other student didn't budge. Smirking condescendingly, he called Hiyu a punk, and suddenly Hiyu found himself surrounded. Friends joined the challenger, forming a circle of threat. The leader leaned in. What's your problem, kid? One of the bullies added mockingly. No problem. Just cutting in line. Hiyu's temper flared instantly. Get to the back, he shouted, arms spread to block them, heart hammering. Panic prickled as he realized he was outnumbered. Yet nobody in the crowded cafeteria intervened. Shen Qinghan grabbed Lin Zichen's sleeve, alarm flashing in her eyes. Lin Zichen, Hiyu's being bullied. A shadow fell across the group. Calm, unshaken, Lin Zichen stepped forward. His hand rested on the leader's shoulder. Please, line up properly, he said, voice low, almost icy. The bully turned, smirk widening. And what will you do if I don't? Lin Zichen's lips curled into a sly grin. Slowly, he pulled out his phone. I'll report you. The leader laughed harshly. Reporting? Shameful. Lin Zichen's grin deepened, eyes glinting. I find cutting in line even more shameful. Frustration creased their faces. Without another word, the group melted away. Defeated and muttering under their breaths. Far away in a lavish Shanghai villa hidden behind ornate gates, the rat god cult convened. Hooded figures filled the room, silent and tense. The leader, a tall man cloaked in black, sat on a throne-like chair. Sha Qiang is dead. He lost control at the market and paid the price. A murmur of agreement rippled through the cultists. The leader then introduced a new recruit. Young, face shadowed by his hood. Listen closely. Our Lord Rat God commands. Only nobles are worthy of sacrifice. ordinary humans, too bitter for divine favor. Two cultists immediately protested. Targeting nobles is too risky. A missing peasant goes unnoticed, but a noble? The leader's gaze swept over them. Then aim for the sons of wealthy but powerless merchants. Less risk, same devotion. Turning to the newcomer, he continued, "You are not ready for true nobles. Start smaller, capture a handsome youth as tribute to the rat god's subordinate." The new recruit's voice, low but confident, echoed through the room. "I will not offer just anyone. The most handsome man in Shanghai will be presented to the divine child." Back at school, Yu paced angrily. "I checked. The line cutters are from Class 3's second year, our top honors rivals," he spat. "How can students from such an elite class behave so rudely?" Lin Zixin leaned against the lockers, scrolling his phone. Grades don't teach manners. His eyes narrowed suddenly at a news alert. Another wealthy heir. Missing, 5th in a row. No ransom demanded. He clenched his fists. Rat God cult. Definitely them. The day of the competition arrived. The gym buzzed with anticipation. 2 fighting rings set up. Tension crackled as the top honors class glared at Yu. He met their gaze, defiance sparking in his eyes. Warm-ups were swift, movement sharp. The first match began. Shen Qinghan stepped in. Her opponent, a senior, launched a brutal kick immediately. Shen Qinghan blocked, but the senior's raw strength shattered her defense. She hit the floor with a thud. One by one, the first-year girls, including Chu Rui, fell under the senior's relentless assault. Not a single strike landed. The first-year losing streak seemed unbreakable, until a muscular, short-haired girl rose and landed a devastating kick on the senior, toppling her. Victory flashed briefly. Then came the red-haired senior, long hair whipping, eyes blazing. She was a storm. 9 first-year students fell beneath relentless assault in under 10 minutes, 3 of them boys. The first-year class was on the brink of annihilation. Only 4 fighters remained. Every glance at the second-year honors class was like staring into an unscalable wall. Only 5 of their students had been defeated so far. Every single girl, 36 of them, untouched and unyielding. None of the boys had even stepped in yet. Their teachers' hands clenched into fists. The gap in strength, it felt impossible to close. Desperation crept in. He turned to Yu. "It's your turn. Can you handle the 6 remaining girls?" Yu's eyes sparkled, a cocky grin spreading across his face. "Easy." His gaze flicked toward the seniors, more than motivated, particularly eager to face the more attractive female fighters. And just like that, Yu moved. Match after match, the 6 girls fell to his skill, each defeated without drama, without hesitation. One by one, the ring emptied, and Yu stood triumphant. Then came the first male senior, stomping into the ring with menace. Every step thudded like a drumbeat of threat. He planted himself firmly, striking a terrifying pose. "Ready to die?" he demanded, eyes gleaming with malice. Yu's grin faltered, replaced by a cool sneer. "Manners first," he retorted, recognizing the student. The very same bully from the cafeteria. A perfect opportunity for revenge. Or so he thought. The bully lunged, speed beyond expectation. Yu's guard barely moved in time as a brutal punch slammed into his stomach. The wind was knocked out of him. He collapsed to his knees, stunned, pain radiating through his core. "Pathetic," the senior sneered. "Admit it." Rage surged. Yu shot to his feet, fists flying, but every move was anticipated. A swift kick, precise and unrelenting, sent him hurtling out of the ring. Defeated, the taste of humiliation was sharp. Lying there, Yu cursed himself. His confidence had been his downfall. The senior bully straightened, eyes locking on Lin Zixin. Mockery dripped from his tone. "Care to try, Junior? Or are you going to watch your friend be humiliated?" Lin Zixin's lips curved faintly, a flash of anticipation in his eyes. Finally, the chance he had been waiting for. With a graceful leap, he entered the ring. The gym erupted, classmates screaming encouragement. "Crush him, avenge Yu." Chiwei, the bully, attacked immediately. A high kick aimed to intimidate. But Lin Zixin was calm, unshaken. One hand met the kick effortlessly. With fluid motion, he seized Chiwei's leg and slammed him headfirst into the floor of the ring. The impact echoed through the gym, and Chiwei went limp, unconscious. Lin Zixin paused, eyes scanning the stunned faces of the second-year students. Then, casually, he kicked Chiwei's body out of the ring. Silence, disbelief. One of the senior students whispered, almost in fear, He's one of the top 5 strongest in our class." The others could not comprehend it. A junior, taking down one of their elite in seconds? It was impossible. Lu Gong and Wang Shuji exchanged wide-eyed glances, horror and awe battling in their expressions. "Is he even human?" Wang Shuji muttered. Lin Zixin's gaze shifted, cool and calculating. "Who's next?" Fear twisted their faces. One by one, the second-year male students hesitated, then faltered. 30 minutes later, the gym floor was littered with fallen second years. 29 remaining students lay defeated. Lin Zixin stood over the final opponent, body relaxed, mind focused. A notification blinked in his vision. Opponents defeated. 119 1,000ths. He frowned. Progress. Slow. Far too slow. Every class fight, every sparring match, he always went last. The pace was unbearable. Strength far beyond the high school level rendered the rules meaningless. Lin Ziqian made a decision. Clear, resolute. No more waiting. No more following their rules. He would make the rules himself. Same day morning, a scream of disbelief echoed from the principal's office. Inside, the principal's eyes were wide, fixed on Lin Ziqian. You actually want a personal challenge match? With rewards? She stammered, voice trembling. Lin Ziqian nodded, cool and unshaken. Not just a match. I want to challenge the entire school, he said boldly. The principal pressed a hand to her forehead, speechless. The entire student body? And you're a first year? Lin Ziqian replied calmly. Come with me to the gym. I'll show you that I can back it up. Later, the empty gym greeted them. The principal crossed her arms, puzzled. Why bring me here? So late. Lin Ziqian shrugged and peeled off his school jacket, revealing a muscular, chiseled frame. His eyes sparkled with confidence. I'm here to demonstrate my true strength. The principal's brow furrowed. Misunderstanding for a moment, she raised her hands in protest. Stop. You can't. But Lin Ziqian strode to a massive barbell. Its weight, 700 kilograms. Without hesitation, he gripped it and lifted it effortlessly with one hand. Air seemed to freeze. The principal's jaw dropped. Her mind raced. This strength, it dwarfed even Wu Tiancheng's legendary first-year feats. Reality hit her. Lin Ziqian was on a different level entirely. Slowly, she gave a trembling thumbs up. All right, you have my approval. We'll arrange it. Lin Ziqian's grin was mischievous. We'll need prizes. Otherwise, no one will bother challenging me. He outlined the plan. 2 types of rewards. A participation prize to encourage challengers, and a growing cumulative prize pool. If someone defeats him, they claim the whole pool. If no one wins within the time limit, all the money is his. The principal, now intrigued, smiled, shaking her head in disbelief but agreeing. Lin Ziqian's final request. Keep my true strength a secret, or no one will even dare step up. She patted his shoulder playfully. Agreed. Later in her office, she showed him the finalized plan. Lin Ziqian nodded. Perfect. Thank you. 2 teachers passed by and paused, shocked by the principal's unusually cheerful demeanor toward a first year. The martial arts teacher thought bitterly, she's smiling. At him? What is happening? At 2 in the afternoon, the gym buzzed. Students surrounded 2 fighting rings, murmurs rising to shouts. The principal took the microphone. She introduced Lin Ziqian, recapped his victories, and explained the rules and rewards of his challenge. Chaos erupted. Laughter, mockery, and disbelief filled the gym. She's lost her mind, students yelled. A first year thinks he can take on everyone? Voices argued. Defeating the second year's top class doesn't mean he can beat the third year. Another shouted, arrogant. Lin Ziqian raised a hand, calm as ever. Starting tomorrow, I'll be in the gym every afternoon for 2 hours. Anyone can challenge me. Inside, he grinned. Perfect. So many eager to fight. I might finish my survival of the fittest quest even faster than expected. Night fell over Shanghai City. Streets glimmered with neon. A young blonde man strolled, drink in hand. 2 attractive women blocked his path, teasingly inviting him to a bar. He glanced at them, cold and sharp. Move along, he said flatly. They huffed and walked away. No charm, they muttered. He rolled his eyes. Shanghai, always lame. But he wasn't just any man. The blonde was a new rat god cultist hunting his first target for a mission. Anxiety gnawed at him. Days of searching. No one worthy had appeared. The pressure of failure loomed. He couldn't be shown weak in front of the cult leader. Celebrity targets were impossible. Bodyguards everywhere. Suddenly, a blur of motion caught his eye. Lin Ziqian, running in a tank top and shorts, sprinted past. The cultist froze. Eyes wide, heart pounding. Finally, his target. An incredibly handsome youth, perfect for the sacrifice. Relief washed over him, a sinister grin spreading across his face. Lin Ziqian turned down a deserted industrial alley. The cultist followed silently, anticipation curling into obsession. The alley was perfect, secluded. His grin twisted black, teeth bared, eyes darkening. With a guttural roar, he unleashed his power. His body warped, muscles bulging grotesquely, skin stretching into a monstrous, tooth-filled maw. The transformation completed, he was a terrifying beast, ready to strike. Then, wham! A brick hurtled from nowhere, smashing into his head with a sickening impact. The beast staggered, stunned, crimson blood splattering. The transformed cultist staggers backward, clutching its skull as agony and bewilderment flood its mind after being struck squarely by the brick. From the dark alley, Lin Ziqian steps into view, the faint light glinting off the brick he just hurled. With a calm and almost detached tone, he muses to himself that he hadn't expected to come across a rat person during his casual jog, calling it a fortunate opportunity to boost the progress of his mysterious guidebook. The creature trembles violently, eyes wide with terror. unable to comprehend the strange words leaving the human's mouth. To it, this man is a nightmare wearing human skin, something it should never have encountered. Before the mutated cultist can move again, its body spasms, collapses, and goes still, dead before it even hits the ground. Lin Zikin blinks, momentarily stunned. He stares at the brick in his hand, hardly believing that such a casual throw could end a life. His brows furrow. How could a follower of the rat god cult be this fragile? Shrugging off the thought, he crouches down beside the corpse, pressing his palm to the still body as he swiftly draws out its remaining life essence before anyone else shows up. A faint chime echoes in his mind. System notification. You have devoured a trace of the giant mutant rat's life essence. Guidebook progress plus 1%. 8% total. He exhales in mild disappointment. Only 1%. Pathetic. Clearly, the low-grade essence explains why the creature had been so weak. Straightening up, he brushes off his hands and decides, no more night runs for now. He knows too well that not every cultist is this feeble. Some of them have fused so completely with the rat god's mutation that even bullets can barely pierce their skin. The next morning, a breaking news report catches his attention. At approximately 3 a.m., the Municipal Public Security Bureau, in collaboration with Professor Wu Tiancheng from Shanghai University, successfully eradicated the rat god cult. Lin leans forward as footage rolls. Professor Wu, a high-level gene fuser, facing the monstrous Rat King in an all-out battle. The broadcast shows chaos incarnate, fires volleys of needle-like spikes that tear through steel and concrete alike. But the red-haired, winged gene fuser endures, retaliating with blinding force. In less than 30 seconds, the creature falls, its massive frame crumbling as the victorious figure descends through the haze. The fight ends as quickly as it began, a brutal, one-sided slaughter. Lin Zichen sits in silence. The display of overwhelming power leaves him shaken. Is that what a true high-level being is capable of? The strength he saw tonight is something far beyond his imagination. Meanwhile, in a sleek modern command room bathed in sterile light, two men in tactical suits converse. The blue-haired one, sipping from a steaming cup, glances sideways at his partner. An orange-haired man named Tian Cheng. Still no word from our teacher? He asks casually. Tian Cheng's tone is clipped. No, he's still unreachable. Everyone who went to suppress the riot at Source Site 36 has gone dark. The blue-haired man hums, expression thoughtful. And the situation at the site? Tian Cheng responds, calm but confident. Stable for now. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have time to clean up the scraps that slipped out during the chaos. His companion raises a brow at the word scraps, silently remembering that the so-called scrap Tian Cheng refers to once included the Rat King, a creature the entire Public Security Bureau couldn't even scratch. Yet, compared to a genius-level gene fuser like Tian Cheng, that monster truly was nothing more than a small fry. A grin spreads across the blue-haired man's face as he slings an arm around Tian Cheng's shoulders. Since you're already here, how about dropping by our old university? Give the juniors a little motivational talk, eh? Tian Cheng scowls, brushing his arm away. I'm not free enough to waste time on lectures. I've got real work to handle. His companion chuckles, unbothered. Oh, come on. Guiding the next generation's mindset is part of the job. Don't be so cold. Deep within a lightless cavern far beneath the city, the truth unfolds. The Rat King did not perish in its clash with Wu Tiancheng. It lives, its enormous body battered and broken, but its hatred very much alive. The creature kneels low, its many eyes trembling as it speaks in a guttural rasp. It confesses that at first, it fed only on beggars, the forgotten ones, those no one would miss. But soon, the hunger grew, beyond control. Then came the youth, the strong and vibrant. And after that, it whispers shamefully. It began to crave the rich, the soft and pampered elite, whose flesh was sweetest of all. The Rat King's voice trembles as it lowers its head fully to the stone floor, prostrating itself before something far greater. In the shadows before it, a monstrous figure stirs colossal, green-skinned and towering like a living mountain, with veins of molten red light pulsing beneath its skin. Its crimson eyes blaze with fury as it looks down upon the cowering Rat King. I brought you here, it growls, its voice rumbling like thunder, to command your clan to dig tunnels, not to gorge yourself on humans. You've exposed us to the world. The cavern shakes as the creature leans forward, its breath hot and foul. Tell me, vermin, do you think you deserve to live after this failure? The Rat King collapses in terror, begging frantically for another chance, promising obedience, swearing loyalty. The green monster studies the trembling creature for a long moment, then lets out a cold, grating laugh. Fine. You may have another chance, but you'll pay for it. Before the Rat King can react, the giant's claw lashes out. There's a sickening crack, and a spray of blood paints the dark walls. The green monster toys with the ruined creature, its claw now clutching a freshly torn eye between its fingers. It lifts it to its nose, inhales deeply, and sneers. Disgusting stench, it mutters. But the taste, The taste isn't bad. The Rat King writhes on the ground, screaming, clutching at the bloody hole in its face. The monster crouches beside it, one claw pressing against its trembling snout. You were clever, it admits, sending a decoy to die in your place, letting the humans think they'd killed you. Your little trick fooled even that so-called gene fuser. The Rat King quivers, afraid to respond. The monster's grin vanishes, its eyes flaring hotter. But remember this, if you fail to dig those tunnels for me again, you will die for real. Understood? The Rat King nods violently, blood dripping to the stone floor. Far above, on the surface, the new day dawns bright and loud. At Shanghai High School, a long-awaited day of Lin Zian's personal challenge has finally arrived. As he walks toward the gymnasium, the corridors buzz with whispers and laughter. Students point and murmur, "That's him, the first year who dared to challenge the whole school." Some mock, others admire, but all are curious. Lin ignores them, his eyes fixed on his phone screen displaying the latest wanted notice: 9 remaining fugitives from the Rat God cult. A 500,001 bounty glints beside each face. He smirks slightly, thinking of them as walking treasure chests, but quickly reins himself in, sighing inwardly. If he ever runs into one, his safety comes first. Money means nothing if he's dead. He steps into the gym and finds it packed beyond belief. The air is electric. Students crowd the stands, surrounding multiple fighting rings just as he planned. At the edge of the stage, Shen Qinghan stands poised with a megaphone, her clear voice echoing through the hall. "Every participant will receive a lottery ticket," she announces. "Winners can claim amazing prizes." Instantly, the crowd erupts. Male students cheer and shout, eyes lighting up at the mention of game consoles, smartphones, and other luxuries. One bold boy laughs loudly about how he hopes to touch Shen Qinghan's hand during the draw and rushes forward to be first. But before he can reach the ring, a blur of motion flies past. A female student vaults clean over him, planting her foot squarely on his head as she lands and shouts, "I'll go first." That single act unleashes chaos. The crowd of girls surges forward like a tidal wave, shoving past the stunned boys, all eager for their turn. The ring is instantly flooded with female challengers, dozens of them, surrounding Lin Ziqin in an excited frenzy. But instead of fighting, they start squealing. One brushes her hand along his arm, gasping at how firm his muscles feel. Another cups his cheek with sparkling eyes, murmuring, "He's even more handsome up close." Lin's face tightens. This is not how he imagined the challenge would go. He tries to reason, then gives up, exhaling softly. He doesn't want to hurt them, but the system's requirement is clear. If he wants to complete the survival of the fittest achievement, he has no choice. He closes his eyes, centers his breathing, and lets his energy surge quietly through him. In an instant, his movements blur. With effortless precision, he taps, parries, and pushes each motion gentle yet unyielding. One by one, the girls are sent flying from the ring, landing unharmed but dazed. Finally, he releases a controlled burst of force that sweeps through the area like a gust of wind, knocking the remaining crowd back in a single, clean motion. "Sorry," he says calmly as the dust settles. Lin glances at his system window. A new line flashes across his vision. Achievement progress. Survival of the fittest. 309 1,000ths. Despite their humiliating defeat, the female students show no sign of giving up. A pink-haired girl bounces to her feet, hand raised high, shouting that she wants a rematch. But Lin Ziqin's tone turns cold as steel. He crosses his arms and declares that, according to the challenge rules, anyone who's already lost is not allowed to fight again. His voice carries authority, final, unbending. The girls groan in protest, pouting and complaining that the rule is unfair. One even stomps her foot in frustration. Before the chatter can rise again, a shadow looms. A towering, muscular student steps forward, cracking his knuckles with a loud pop. His friends follow, glaring at Lin Ziqin. "All right, enough playing around," the big one growls. "Now it's my turn to teach you some respect, freshman." His confidence lasts about 3 seconds. Lin Ziqin doesn't even blink, his fist flashes once, and the self-proclaimed teacher is sent sprawling across the ring, unconscious before he hits the ground. What follows is a blur of one-sided battles. Challenger after challenger rushes forward, shouting, boasting, swinging, and each one is sent flying by a single precise strike. The audience gasps with every impact. Within minutes, Lin Ziqin stands alone atop a small mountain of defeated students, dust swirling around his feet. His system flickers in his vision. Achievement progress. He brushes his hands together and asks flatly, "Who's next?" A deep, steady voice answers, "I am." The crowd parts like waves as a new challenger approaches, calm, confident, and radiating power. He leaps into the ring with effortless grace, landing in front of Lin Ziqin. Whispers erupt through the gym. "It's Yan Shaoxuan," someone yells, "the second-year champion." Others mutter in awe, recalling his reputation, the student who once defeated an entire class by himself, though even he had been humbled by a third-year instructor. Yan Shaoxuan adjusts his sleeves, his expression cool. "You remind me of myself," he says, his tone heavy with condescension. I used to think I was unbeatable too until someone stronger showed me otherwise. Consider this your lesson in humility. He continues his lecture, preaching about strength, growth, and knowing one's place. But Lin Zixin has already tuned out. Turning to the supervising teacher, Lin Zixin calmly asks, "Can we start now?" The teacher, caught off guard, blinks and nods quickly. Yes. The match begins. Before Yan Xiaoshuang can even finish his speech, Lin Zixin's leg arcs upward like lightning. The kick slams into Yan's chest with a thunderous crack, launching him clear across the ring. He smashes into the far wall and crumples, eyes wide, gasping for air. Lin Zixin sighs, digging a finger in his ear. Finally quiet. The entire gym falls silent. Dozens of students stare in disbelief. Then, chaos erupts, gasps, shouts, voices overlapping in confusion. He beat Yan Xiaoshuan in one hit? Impossible. What kind of monster is this guy? But before the noise fades, another sound cuts through slow, deliberate clapping. A tall figure with spiky red hair pushes through the crowd. His steps heavy, deliberate. His body is lean but powerful, and his eyes burn with confidence. The crowd instantly recognizes him and bursts into wild excitement. "Chen Wuxing," they scream, the #1 student in the entire school. Lin Zixin watches him approach, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Of course, he thinks. Beat the younger one, and the older one shows up classic. Chen Wuxing hops into the ring with casual ease, cracking his neck. "I never thought I'd see Yan Xiaoshuan go down that easily," he says with a faint grin. "Looks like I'll have to clean up his mess." But before he can launch into his inevitable speech, Lin Zixin interrupts again, turning to the teacher. "Can we begin?" The teacher hesitates, but Chen Wuxing snaps. "Wait, I haven't. Start the match." Lin cuts in. "Match start," the teacher blurts. Fury flashes across Chen Wuxing's face. Blue energy flares around him as he charges forward like a cannonball. "Fine then. If words won't reach you, I'll make sure my fists do." His punch roars through the air, wrapped in a swirling aura of force. Lin Zixin's own hand rises, glowing with a sharp golden light. Their blows collide, the shockwave rattling the gymnasium windows. Chen Wuxing grits his teeth. "You're strong," he admits through clenched jaws. "But this ends?" Lin cuts him off, his tone calm. "Sorry, I'm in a hurry." In the next instant, Lin's fist drives forward, a blur of raw power. The impact explodes through the air. Chen Wuxing is lifted clean off his feet and hurled across the ring. Eyes wide in stunned disbelief. How is this possible?" He gasps, before falling silent. The crowd stands frozen, mouths open, too shocked even to cheer. Their two strongest heroes crushed by a first year in seconds. Lin Zixin lowers his hand, expression unreadable. He glances around, then points casually toward a random boy in the front row. "You, get in here." The boy blinks, stunned. "Me?" Lin nods. "You haven't fought yet." The student trembles, rubbing the back of his neck. Just please go easy." Lin smiles faintly. "You'll get a lottery ticket if you join. That's all it takes." The boy squares his shoulders, rushes into the ring, and is immediately flattened by a single, effortless punch. A new system prompt flickers before Lin's eyes. Progress. Then realization spreads through the watching students. Losing doesn't matter, they can still win prizes. Murmurs turn to cheers. Dozens surge forward again, tripping over one another in their eagerness. And so it begins again. One by one, Lin Zixin sends each challenger flying. His strikes clean, efficient, until at last, the 1,000th opponent collapses before him. A brilliant system notification flashes across his vision. Achievement complete, survival of the fittest, 1,000 1,000s. Another message follows immediately. New biological attribute acquired, survival of the fittest. Lin Zixin's eyes narrow. He clenches his fist. A satisfied smile spreads across his face. After all the effort, all the battles, he had done it. With his mission complete, a clear system notification appeared before Lin Zixin's eyes. The details showed his new reward that increased the damage he could deal to other living beings. Lin Zixin touched his chin and thought. It was a simple and useful power boost, yet he felt slightly annoyed that the system did not show the exact increase value. With his goal achieved, Lin Zixin jumped down from the stage and announced that the challenge was over. The girls watching were disappointed, saying it ended too soon, and they wanted to see more. Without wasting time, Lin Zixin took Shen Qinghan's hand and led her through the crowd. They left the gym as it began to empty. Not long after, laughter echoed from the principal's office. Inside, the principal of Shanghai High sat on her desk and congratulated Lin Zixin for officially earning the title of the school's top fighter. She leaned closer and teased that since he defeated Chen Wuxing in seconds, he must be hiding his real strength. Lin Zixin sat on the couch beside Shen Qinghan and sipped his drink. He replied humbly that he only hid a little power. The principal smiled in disbelief. She mentioned that Chen Wuxing had taken a special entrance test for Kyoto University, where he lifted a 690-kilogram barbell with one hand. From that, she guessed Lin Zixin's own one-hand lift should be at least 800 kilograms. Inside, Lin Zichen knew he could not reveal his true, much greater power. He decided to play along, saying her guess was almost perfect, and his record showed 795 kilograms. The principal laughed proudly, thinking she had been right. When she began talking about his new responsibilities, Lin Zichen raised his hand with interest and asked when he would receive the 8,810 yuan prize money. The principal laughed at his focus on money and called him a little rascal, but she agreed and transferred the amount right away. Before she could continue, Lin Zichen asked another question. Since both he and Shen Qinghan liked swimming, he wanted access to the school pool, but only for themselves. He said it should stay closed for everyone else whenever they used it. The principal smiled and agreed without hesitation. Surprised that she said yes so easily, Lin Zichen added one more thing. He said he did not like being watched while swimming, so he would cover the security cameras during their sessions. Shen Qinghan's face turned red at once. The principal's thoughts ran wild, imagining what might happen between them if they were alone in the pool. With a playful smile, she took a key from her desk and handed it to Lin Zichen. She told him the pool would be their private area from now on. Leaning closer, she whispered a teasing warning, telling him to be careful not to create a new life while they were there. Lin Zichen blinked in confusion, not understanding what she meant by new life. As they walked down the hall, Lin Zichen looked at the pool key in his hand. He thought that with full access, he could finally explore the truth behind Shen Qinghan's mysterious water powers. His thoughts stopped when Shen Qinghan suddenly turned to him. She looked nervous as she said she had joined a singing contest. She had practiced her solo parts, but needed someone to sing the duet with her. She asked softly if he could help her practice that evening. Lin Zichen agreed at once. Shen Qinghan smiled happily and raised her fist in excitement before skipping away. Watching her go, Lin Zichen smiled to himself, hoping she would gain more confidence through the event. That night at Shen Qinghan's apartment, they practiced in her room. She sang into the microphone while Lin Zichen followed along with the music on his phone. In the living room, her parents Shen Xian and Xu Meng sat together. Her father frowned, saying it might not be proper for the two to be alone in a room at their age. Her mother scolded him, saying they had been close since childhood and he should stop worrying. The father quickly went quiet. After hearing them, Lin Zichen decided it was time to finish. He told Shen Qinghan they had practiced long enough and should rest for their studies. As he prepared to leave, he reminded her not to forget their plan for the next day, to meet at the school pool so she could train her water skills. She nodded cheerfully and promised to bring her swimsuit. When Shen Qinghan was finally alone, her thoughts drifted to the next day's visit to the pool, and her face turned bright red. She stood before her closet, wondering what kind of swimsuit she should bring. On her bed, she placed two choices: a simple blue one-piece and a daring black bikini. She lifted the black bikini and her heart began to race. It seemed a little too bold, and she hesitated, thinking it might show too much. For a brief moment, her imagination wandered, and she pictured herself in the water playing around with Lin Zichen as they splashed each other and laughed. Her cheeks burned even more at the thought. After a short pause, she took a deep breath and made her decision. Since no one else would be there except Lin Zichen, she told herself it would be fine. With newfound resolve, she folded the black bikini and placed it inside her school bag. The next afternoon, after classes ended, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan made their way to the quiet gym pool. Lin Zichen had already changed into his swimming shorts and stood by the edge of the water. His toned body reflected under the ceiling lights as he glanced up at the security camera and remembered his promise to the principal. Just then, a familiar voice called his name. Lin Zichen turned his head and saw Shen Qinghan standing by the doorway. She wore the black bikini, her face slightly pink, yet her smile bright and full of energy. She walked over to him, saying softly that she hoped he had not waited long. Lin Zichen kept his expression steady and told her to slow down so she would not slip. Inside, however, his heart skipped a beat as he thought about how adorable she looked. Once he regained his calm, he said it was time to start their training, and Shen Qinghan nodded eagerly. They both stepped into the pool and began to glide through the water with smooth and steady strokes. After a few moments, Lin Zichen reached for Shen Qinghan's hand under the surface, and together they swam side by side. Suddenly, Shen Qinghan's eyes widened. She felt something strange and pulled slightly on his arm. Lin Zichen looked at her in confusion until she quickly pointed upward, signaling that they needed to go up right away. Understanding at once, he wrapped his arm around her and pushed them both toward the surface. They burst through the water with a loud splash. Lin Zichen held her gently and asked what was wrong. Shen Qinghan's eyes sparkled with surprise and wonder. She said the water was passing straight through her body. To show him, she lifted her hands under the surface and told him to look closely. Just as she said, the water slipped right through her palms as if her skin had turned weightless and see-through before falling back into the pool below. Shen Qinghan stared at her palms in disbelief as streams of water slipped right through them. Startled, she turned to Lin Zichen and asked why her body seemed to be leaking. Lin observed quietly, his eyes narrowing in curiosity. It wasn't an illusion, but the awakening of her dormant superpower. With a calm yet serious tone, He asked her to hold out her hand. When he pressed his fingers against her palm, the water simply flowed through again. But aside from that strange phenomenon, her skin felt perfectly normal. "Let's step out of the pool," he suggested. "I need to check if it's only your hands affected." Shen Qinghan blushed furiously but nodded shyly. Moments later, she lay on a poolside recliner, her body glistening under the dim lights as Lin Zichen continued his examination. As he poured more water across her arms and shoulders, she squirmed slightly and asked in a soft voice, "How long will this test take?" After repeating his observations several times, he finally concluded thoughtfully, "It seems like only your hands manifest this power for now." She exhaled in relief and nodded. Sitting by the pool's edge, Shen Qinghan hesitated, then asked timidly, "Could my, bedwetting issue be connected to this? Maybe another part of my body also lets water pass through?" Lin Zichen rubbed the back of his neck, admitting that it wasn't impossible. Awkwardly, he added, "If you ever feel the urge again, let me know immediately. Try to sense if any other area feels like your palms." The moment he said it, he realized how strange it sounded, and his face turned red. Before he could apologize, Shen Qinghan's expression brightened with excitement. "Then that means I'm not useless after all. I actually have a water-type ability." Determination filled her eyes. If she could master this strange power, maybe one day she'd be able to stand proudly beside Lin Zichen, not as a helpless girl, but as his equal. The story then shifts to a bustling futuristic city glowing with neon lights and holographic billboards, advertising cybernetic enhancements. Lin Zichen walked confidently into a high-end supermarket. A cheerful female clerk greeted him, but her smile faltered as he slid his payment card across the counter and coolly said, 100 jin of savage giant eagle meat. The clerk froze, eyes wide. "Oh, 100 jin. Of that?" she stammered, glancing at the enormous price tag. Still, professionalism won over shock. She confirmed the order, copied the delivery address, and even managed a polite smile as she handed him the receipt, asking for a good review. Later that night, in a deserted industrial zone, a delivery truck arrived. Lin Zichen checked the containers stacked with beast meat and murmured, 210,000 yuan left. Plenty to cover this. His mind flashed back to the 120,000 yuan he'd earned from his web novel that morning. With a deep breath, he placed his hand on the thick slab of flesh. Instantly, a surge of white energy burst out, wrapping him in a blinding vortex. A holographic system interface appeared before his eyes, devouring savage giant eagle life source. Codex, unlock progress, 100%. In the next instant, visions filled his mind. A colossal white eagle slicing through clouds, diving into stormy seas, and seizing a massive violet kraken in its talons. The image vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving Lin Zichen standing in a halo of azure light. Codex unlocked, savage giant eagle. New biological attribute, Eye of the Sky. Information streamed into his brain. Eye of the Sky. An ability that granted extraordinary sight far beyond human limits. His irises shimmered with golden light, transforming into intricate, eagle-like patterns. He blinked once, and suddenly, the entire city unfolded before him. Every rooftop, every alley, every heartbeat. He could zoom in on a moving car miles away, or even read the glowing text on a man's phone across the district. A slow smile crept onto his lips. So this is the vision of a true predator. Afterward, Lin Zichen returned home, only to find his parents watching a grim news broadcast. On the screen, reporters covered a devastating incident involving a high-level gene fuser who had lost control and mutated it in public, resulting in hundreds of casualties. The footage showed a grotesque, winged monster lifting a truck high above a shattered street before slamming it into the ground. The broadcast shifted to a heated debate. One commentator condemned gene fusion entirely, insisting humanity should evolve through its own latent potential rather than relying on artificial enhancement. His opponent countered furiously, calling such idealism naive and impossible. Without gene fusers, how would we even face aberrant beasts? He argued, pointing out that ordinary martial artists couldn't even deflect bullets. Lin Zichen's father exhaled sharply. Gene fusers are walking bombs. His mother disagreed, saying government regulations were extremely strict and the likelihood of such an incident was tiny. The real problem, she added calmly, is that many fusers lose their ability to have children afterward. Her husband nodded thoughtfully. Then it's best for anyone planning procedure to store their genetic material first or start a family early. As he spoke, his wife suddenly realized their son was standing in the doorway. She quickly straightened up, a faint blush on her cheeks, clearly embarrassed that he had overheard their personal conversation. Lin Zichen smiled faintly and suggested they all have dinner together. During the meal, he mentioned that his academy would be holding a campus singing competition the next day, and that Shen Qinghan had signed up to perform. Both his parents lit up with excitement. His father immediately declared, "Then we're all going. We'll cheer her on." His mother laughed, agreeing wholeheartedly. She's practically family anyway. she said warmly. Lin Zixin simply nodded, smiling at their enthusiasm. The next evening, the school was alive with excitement. The stage was massive, glowing under bright lights as the crowd chanted and waved colorful banners. In the audience, Lin's parents stood proudly among the supporters, wearing glowing headbands and holding a sign that read, "Go Qinghan." Meanwhile, backstage in an empty classroom, Lin Zixin was helping Shen Qinghan get ready. He applied a soft layer of makeup across her face with practiced precision. When she opened her eyes, she caught him watching her closely. Her cheeks flushed pink. "Why are you staring at me like that?" she whispered. He smiled gently. "Because you look beautiful," he said simply. The sincerity in his tone made her blush even deeper. Dressed in an elegant black gown, she looked radiant, yet nervous. Just then, their friend Chu Rui popped her head through the door, smirking. "Are you two done with your romantic rehearsal?" she teased. Shen Qinghan waved her hands in panic. "It's not like that. I just needed help with makeup." Chu Rui laughed, rolling her eyes. Sure you two already act like an old married couple." She grinned and reminded them they were on stage after 2 more performers, then left with a playful wave. Once the room quieted, Lin Zixin told her, "Come on, let's go get ready backstage." But Shen Qinghan didn't move. She sat still, hands trembling slightly in her lap. With a deeply flustered expression, Shen Qinghan shyly tugged on Lin Zixin's jacket, struggling to find her words. After a long pause, she finally confessed that her nerves were acting up again. It was clear her anxiety had unintentionally triggered her unusual ability once more. The water shimmered in the dim light of the room, tracing along her elegant black dress before dripping softly onto the floor. Shen Qinghan breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably. Through her tears, she tells Lin Zixin that their performance is about to begin and fears she's ruined everything. Panic grips her as she imagines the humiliation if anyone discovers her accident. Remaining calm, Lin Zixin steps closer, gently cupping her face. He tells her to stop crying before her makeup gets ruined. The classroom around them is empty and silent until a sudden thought flashes in his mind. His gaze lands on the long white curtains by the window. Without hesitation, he grabs a pair of scissors and tears one free. Spreading it across a desk, he starts cutting with swift, precise movements. Shen Qinghan watches, wide-eyed as her sobs fade into quiet wonder. Within moments, Lin Zixin has turned the curtain into a beautiful layered white gown. Softly, she murmurs his name, touched by his quick thinking. He smiles faintly and hands her the dress, urging her to hurry and change in the bathroom. Flushed and flustered, Shen Qinghan insists there's no need. She asks him to turn around instead. Caught off guard, Lin Zixin's face burns red, but he obediently faces the other way. Behind him, the faint rustle of fabric fills the air as Shen Qinghan removes her ruined outfit. Though he doesn't look, every sound heightens his embarrassment. She stretches lightly before slipping into the new dress. When she's done, she tells him he can turn around. He does, and is stunned. Standing before him, Shen Qinghan looks radiant, the improvised gown flowing gracefully around her. She thanks him with a bright smile, saying the tears actually helped her calm down. Lin Zixin chuckles softly, patting her head and wishing her luck. Moments later, an announcer calls their names. On stage, Shen Qinghan and her partner deliver a breathtaking, high-energy performance that electrifies the audience. When the results are announced, they're declared the winners. The crowd erupts in cheers as the two girls embrace with joy. In the audience, Lin Zixin stands beside his father, applauding with quiet pride. The next morning, their teacher storms into the classroom, aghast at the missing curtain. Furious, she demands to know who's responsible. As punishment, Lin Zixin and Shen Qinghan are ordered to clean the entire room. While mopping, Lin Zixin sighs, thinking it's a fair consequence. Suddenly, a familiar system chime rings in his mind. He's achieved Cooperation 1000. His reward is the Gregarious Beast trait, which boosts combat strength when fighting with allies. A small grin crosses his face. Meanwhile, Shen Qinghan's life begins to blossom. Her victory earns her popularity and admiration. Classmates praise her singing and invite her to karaoke. With growing self-assurance, her martial arts skills also begin to soar. Lin Zixin continues his own journey, eventually winning a major martial arts championship, the first for Shanghai High in 5 years. His parents, teammates, and Shen Qinghan celebrate his success. Trophies soon fill his room, and fame follows. He becomes the face of the He family martial arts gym, earning both recognition and wealth. Between endorsement deals and his web novel income, Lin Zixin accumulates over 900,000 yuan. Smiling at the sight of his balance, he decides it's time to unlock his next codex. In a secluded area, he retrieves a large crate from the friendly supermarket clerk. Inside lies the preserved remains of a hidden dragon, a stealthy, lizard-like beast. Placing his hand on the creature's essence, he begins the absorption ritual. A brilliant blue aura bursts around him as the system announces, "Hidden Dragon Life Source absorbed. Codex progress 100%. Moments later, another alert flashes. Hidden Dragon Codex unlocked. New attribute, Natural Camouflage. The description appears before his eyes. The ability to suppress his life signals, mask his true strength, and vanish into stealth. A knowing smile spreads across Lin Zixin's face. He instantly grasps the potential. He can now deceive foes and strike from the shadows. When his main goal accomplished, Lin Zichen remembers his promise to buy a cake for his mother. He strolls through the bustling city streets, lost in thought, until a sudden commotion snaps him out of his calm. He turns toward the noise and spots a startling sight, a striking red-haired woman struggling as two guards in armored tactical suits drag her away. Just as he's about to move on, a familiar voice calls his name. Startled, Lin Zichen looks over and recognizes the speaker, Zhong Kai, a senior from his school. His gaze instantly falls on the metallic limbs supporting the young man's frame. Zhong Kai catches his look and laughs lightly, explaining in a casual tone that after failing his high school entrance exams, he took up reckless street racing. One accident left his legs shattered beyond repair, forcing doctors to amputate them. However, fate took an unexpected turn. He was chosen for a cybernetic enhancement program by the Mechanical God Group, transforming him from a disabled youth into a full-fledged cyborg. Intrigued, Lin Zichen glances toward the red-haired prisoner and asks who she is. One of the guards responds coldly that she's a surviving member of the Rat God cult, the sole woman among 9 remaining fugitives. Before Zhong Kai can say more, his partner shouts for him to move out. He gives Lin a quick wave, promising to catch up later. Lin waves back, watching as they disappear into the crowd. As silence returns, a faint unease settles in his chest. Something doesn't add up. The Public Security Bureau had spent months searching for the Rat God remnants without success. Yet the Mechanical God Group managed to capture one effortlessly. Narrowing his eyes, Lin Zichen makes a mental note. This organization is far more powerful and mysterious than they appear. Just then, his phone rings. The caller ID shows his mother. Her warm voice fills his ear, asking if he bought the cake and when he'll be home. He reassures her that he's already on his way, and she reminds him to stay safe. The scene transitions to a cozy living room glowing with laughter and music. It's a joint birthday celebration. Since Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan's birthdays fall just a day apart, their families always celebrate together. Their parents sing happy birthday while the two stand side by side, smiling brightly as they blow out the candles atop the cake. Afterward, their mothers nudge them playfully to exchange gifts. They laugh, handing presents to one another, the air filled with warmth and joy. But the happiness doesn't last. Without warning, the entire room begins to shake violently. Plates crash to the floor as everyone stumbles in confusion. Someone shouts, "Is this an earthquake?" Lin Zichen reacts instantly, pulling Shen Qinghan close to steady her. Yet deep inside, his instincts scream that something is terribly wrong. This isn't a natural tremor. Far below the city's foundations, the truth unfolds. A vast subterranean cavern is crawling with an endless tide of rats. Their glowing crimson eyes pierce the darkness as they surge upward in a horrifying wave toward the surface. The next morning, the local news calmly denies the previous night's commotion. The anchor explains that Shanghai is nowhere near a major tectonic fault line, so the likelihood of a serious earthquake is extremely low. Citizens are advised to remain calm and carry on as usual. At breakfast, Lin Zichen finishes the last sip of his milk and stands up, announcing that he's heading to school. His father responds with a gentle reminder to stay cautious. When Lin Zichen steps outside, he finds Shen Qinghan waiting, a bright smile on her face. She excitedly asks if they can walk to school together. He gives an easy nod and they set off side by side. As they walk, she chatters cheerfully about how now that they've celebrated their 18th birthdays, they are officially adults. Lin Zichen quietly adds that the college entrance exams are fast approaching. At this, her smile falters, and she admits she gets nervous just thinking about it. Time passes. Lin Zichen eventually manages to accumulate enough funds to unlock his next codex. He begins the fusion ritual. A deep violet energy erupts around him like a spiraling vortex as he selects his target, the Void Crocodile. A system prompt flashes before him, displaying the progress bar racing to 100%. In his mind, he witnesses the image of a colossal crocodilian beast, streamlined like a sea predator, thrashing through the water in an attempt to flee from an enormous vicious eagle. The scene fades, and a final message confirms success. Void Crocodile Codex unlocked. New attribute acquired, Danger Perception. The system explains that this ability allows him to sense hostility and gauge the biological threat level of other beings around him. Lin Zichen reflects thoughtfully, it will be invaluable in avoiding ambushes and sudden attacks. To test it, he heads to a crowded shopping mall. As he moves through the sea of people, he activates Danger Perception. Instantly, faint indicators appear. Most of the crowd registers as ordinary Tier 1 or Tier 2. He nods. As expected, the majority of citizens have no significant combat ability. While browsing the supermarket aisle, his attention catches on a packaged product, life and death toad meat. Based on what he knows, consuming such a creature might grant a regenerative or self-healing trait. His excitement fades quickly when he notices the price tag. 100,000 yuan per jin. His web novel income is nowhere near enough to cover such an expense. He clenches his fist lightly, resolve forming. After the exams, he must find a way to increase his earnings. The scene shifts to the Nanjiang Provincial Education Department. Inside a well-furnished office sits a stunning woman, light purple hair flowing, antler-like horns crowning her head. This is Mo Dongji, Vice Principal of Shanghai University and Nanjiang Province's Minister of Education. She listens quietly as a male official finishes his report on the province's education status. She thanks him calmly before asking about origin site number 36. The assistant replies that the situation has finally stabilized. If it hadn't, the entire region could have faced catastrophe. Mo Dongji dismisses him and, once alone, strolls to the window. She gazes at the reflection of her own dignified figure against a backdrop of a sunlit tropical coastline. She murmurs softly. It has been many years since she last took on a student. The narrative transitions to June 7th, the first day of the Martial Academy entrance examination. This exam is infamous. A 9-day marathon, written theory in the morning, physical performance tests in the afternoon. From the next day, students are thrown into a dense forest for 7 days of live combat and survival trials. The final day evaluates compatibility for gene fusion or mechanical augmentation. On the morning of day 1, Lin Zixin and Shen Qinghan walk together. She is visibly anxious, her fingers nervously grasping the edge of his sleeve. She quietly confesses her fear, not of failing, but of losing control of her bladder again. Lin Zixin gives her a kind, reassuring smile. He gently pulls her into a warm embrace and speaks softly, telling her she has studied hard and is well prepared. She has even taken precautions by wearing a diaper. All that's left is to do her best. Her cheeks turn pink at the closeness, but his calm words settle her heart. She nods, promising she'll give everything she has, and reminds him to do the same. He nods back firmly. During the written exam, Lin Zixin moves his pen with relaxed confidence. He completes the test far ahead of the allotted time. With nothing else to do, he props his chin on his hand and casually begins sketching out fresh plot ideas for his ongoing web novel. When the written exam concludes, students stream out of the hall in varying states of relief and exhaustion. Lin Zixin scans the crowd and quickly spots Shen Qinghan, her head lowered and her shoulders tense. She appears troubled. Concern sparks in his chest, so he steps over and gently places a hand on her shoulder. "Hey," he says softly. "It's all right. The written test only needs a passing score. Don't stress too much." But Shen Qinghan quickly shakes her head, her cheeks turning noticeably pink. "No, I scored real well," she replies in a rush. "I don't need comforting." Lin Zixin pauses, confused. "Then why do you look like something terrible happened?" Her face flushes even deeper. Leaning closer, she whispers in a tiny voice, "I had another accident. I couldn't hold it. It happened again." Before he can respond, she waves her hands in embarrassment. "I'll be right back. Just wait here," she blurts, sprinting toward the restroom. Lin Zixin exhales lightly but smiles. "Be quick," he calls out. "The physical assessment starts soon." On the athletic field, the atmosphere is loud and electric as students prepare for their fitness trials. When Lin Zixin steps up to the weightlifting platform, everyone's attention sharpens. The announcer reads his attempt. Final weight, 950 kilograms. Without hesitation, Lin Zixin grips the immense barbell and lifts it smoothly with one hand. Gasps erupt across the field. "No way. 950 with one hand? This is insane." The students start talking excitedly about his earlier feats. A 5.12-second 100-meter sprint and a 4.91-meter vertical jump. Lin Zixin simply steps away, expression calm. After completing her own tests, Shen Qinghan walks over in her gym clothes, her hair a bit messy and sweat shining along her forehead. She looks exhausted but satisfied. "How did it go?" Lin Zixin asks. She smiles, catching her breath. 9.32 seconds for the 100-meter dash, 1.62 meters on the vertical jump, and I lifted 125 kilograms. Then she sighs. "But it's still nothing compared to you." Lin Zixin shakes his head gently. "No, those are excellent results. You're easily top tier among the female students." He pats her head lightly, and her eyes brighten with pure happiness. A while later, their classmate Hai Yu rushes over, waving his phone. The written scores are out. Wang Shuoji got 88, Lu Gen got 86, and I managed an 80. He looks at them eagerly. Shen Qinghan quickly checks her phone. Seeing her score, her face lights up. 82. I got 82. Hai Yu whistles. "Not bad at all." "All right, Lin Zixin, how about you?" Lin Zixin simply shows his screen, displaying a clean, perfect 100. Hai Yu freezes. Shen Qinghan cheers happily. Hai Yu mutters, "Yeah, he's still a monster." As they walk home under the warm evening sky, Shen Qinghan holds her bag tightly. The survival exam in the forest. "I'm still scared of that part," she admits quietly. Lin Zixin takes her hand. "You don't need to be afraid. I'll be right there with you." Comforted, she nods softly. Then I'll stay close to you. Meanwhile, in a secluded room lit by a single lamp, two figures speak in low voices. One is a tall man in a formal suit and a plague doctor mask. Across from him stands a younger man. The masked figure slides a small wooden box across the table. You will be acting as a safety officer, so use your position well. The young man opens the box. Inside are 10 dark, seed-like objects pulsing faintly. These are demon seeds. The masked man explains. They will help you complete your mission. Succeed, and I will recommend you for full membership. The young man frowns slightly. I would rather have that rare fruit you mentioned. The masked man lets out a cold laugh. One fruit could only push you to a mid-tier level. Joining us gives you the chance to evolve far beyond that. The young man thinks, then nods decisively. You're right. Becoming a full member is more valuable.